The views expressed in this podcast, Champ and Tramp, belong to the host and guest, not the Champ and Tramp podcast itself. It's intended for entertainment information, so please use discretion. We're not responsible for any outcomes resulting from the content discussed.
I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors over at MuscleMeds. We've been taking their products for years now, and I can honestly say these guys deliver.
Yes, specifically carnivore and steptropin for me. The carnivore line really takes the bloating and stomach discomfort away, which is huge for me, especially when I'm training on the mat. And steptropin to speed up recovery for years of battling in the ring. I can honestly say I feel at my best again.
Yeah, man, I take their Nitro Lift before every workout, and it's got me stronger than ever. But of course, you know I got to crush a carnivore RTD after. Hands down, the best protein on the market.
Roger that. These products actually work. If any of you guys are looking for a brand you can trust, look, you got to check out MuscleMeds.
Real show, here we go. Real show, here we go. You know that it's gotta be that time, so this is what we chant. What keeps on getting them all amped in advance? Come on. You and I rocking out with Iron Man, FE. You get the general's point of view on top of Roger's rants. Whenever tapping out, we're putting the most minutes in. You already know what that's about, you know that winners win. Crush whatever's on task, check the podcast. It's the champ and the tramp, let the bomb blast.
All right, we got a great episode. My friend, first and foremost, Martin Rooney, strength coach, author, Olympian. I mean, you name it. This guy is, I met you in 2008, I believe, with Ricardo Almeida. I used to drive up to Parisi Speed School up in Fair Lawn, which is like an hour and a half away, to train with you, several times, a couple times a week. And that's how, we started our relationship. And, you cornered Jimmy Miller, you've cornered Renzo Gracie, Ricardo Almeida. You've been in the fight game for years. Training for Warriors, I think. Was that one of your first books?
Yeah, the original that really got it all started.
Right, yeah. And it was good to have you, Martin.
Hey, well, number one, it's my pleasure because I've been watching this so long, and I said, when I get back to New Jersey, this has to happen. I wrote Frankie, and I said, hey, man, I'm coming back. He was like, oh, my God, we got to do this. And the dates worked out, so I'm so excited. And, but the history, which is really, really cool because we've worked together so long ago, it seems now.
Yeah.
But maybe it's to start with the really interesting story. Now, to fact check, I want to be clear so nobody says it. I was on the U.S. bobsled team.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah,
that seems so out of out of character for everything else on your list of accomplishments. I'm like bobsled team.
But what it did, and this is coming full circle. The bobsled team never happens if my grandmother is not from Seaside Park, New Jersey. And here's the interesting story. So I left New Jersey for track and field in South Carolina at a school called Furman University. Then I went to the Medical University of South Carolina to get my physical therapy degree. And because I was getting my master's degree too, I came home for one weekend and my grandmother was really sick and she was staying here at the hospital in Toms River. And because I was here, my buddy calls me and says, dude, are you in New Jersey right now? They're having a bobsled tryout right now at Seaside Heights. And they said they're looking for fast, strong guys. That's you. They're talking about you.
Wait, in Seaside Heights?
At Seaside Heights, they had a 400-pound sled on laser timing system.
No way.
You pushed it for 30 meters, and if you did it on a certain real time, you got a real invite to the Olympic Training Center. So I got no gear, but I was always training. I go right down there, and this thing is lined up. It's real, and all people are doing is watching. Nobody's giving it a shot. Now, I'll tell you what, I should have been smarter and warmed up a little, but I'm all amped up. I want to do this thing, and just boom, I blast this thing, and I make the time, and they see it. I make the time, and then they said, well, we got to see it again. We're not sure because nobody's really been making it. Let's see if it really worked. Well, already my hamstrings are lit up. My hip flexors are tearing off. And then I try it again. I pass it again. And then they say, hey, this is the last stop on the tour. You get one tryout in 2 weeks in Lake Placid, New York to see if you make it and you can stay. And I'm like, man, I got to go home like tomorrow. So I called my university and I said, I made the U.S. bobsled team. Can I take the semester off? I'm going to travel around in Europe and all this stuff, and then I'll come back and finish. And they were like, first off, what? What are you talking about? But they said yes, but I hadn't made anything, right? But the challenge was I only had 2 weeks to kind of get ready. Then you had to go up there. It was 30 meter, 60 meter, 100 meter full out sprint.
Was that the year they had the Winter Olympics in Placid?
No. So the Winter Olympics in Placid were, you're aging me now, because they were 1932 and 1980. So I would be,
80,
I would be 70 now.
I was thinking it was 88 for some
Well,
reason.
now remember, a lot of people don't realize bobsled. The Olympics is only one race every 4 years. There's a team every year that travels throughout the world racing over and over and over and over. So to be clear, because I always say it because you never want to say the wrong things. I wasn't on an Olympic team, so I didn't go to the Olympics, but I was on the U.S. team. Right. I went to the junior world championships, and traveled through Europe and competed and represented the United States. It was an incredible experience, but this is where it gets really weird. So Seaside leads to bobsled. Bobsled leads to me this guy named Todd Hayes. So there was a guy named Todd Hayes, and he needed pushers, guys like me, powerful guys. So we befriended each other, and this guy ended up being a fighter. He was a Muay Thai heavyweight national champ for the United States, and we needed money for our sled. This wasn't some big paying sport. You think fighting was bad? You should have seen bobsled. And we're sitting there eating heart meat to stay alive, raw cans of tuna, raising money. And he ends up getting invited to be part of this documentary and fight in Japan. And the documentary became called Choke, which was the first MMA documentary ever. Right. This is, kind of pre-UFC is going anywhere. It's still banned. Pride isn't even, the big thing yet. And it ends up, he was training for that. And that got me super interested in it. I was like, man, I'd wrestled, but I was like, man, this is really cool. This is amazing. So my Olympic dream ends, or I decide I got to get on with my life. I remember my family being like, dude, you need to get a job. Right. And, so I came home, and the only home was, I'm from Sayreville, New Jersey. So I came back to Sayreville, and my buddy, and this guy's name is John Derrant, and he's another guy in the story. He goes, hey dude, I bet I can kick your ass. I bet I can beat you up. And he was always a smaller guy. I'm coming off the bobsled team. I'm 215. I'm jacked. I'm fast. I'm like, dude, you're not beating anybody up. So we go in his backyard, right? Guess what happens?
Taps you out.
I'm scratched up, beat up, I'm torn up, my clothes are all torn up. I don't even know what happened. I said, dude, what is this? And he goes, hey.
Had you videoed that and put it on YouTube, you could have been the original Kimbo Slice.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, I would have been the guy Kimbo Slice knocked out. Well, it ends up, he goes, dude, one of those Gracie guys just moved to New York City, Henzo Gracie. I've been going. And I said, hey, if you're learning this thing, I'm going to go learn this thing, which leads to the next step, which I was telling Frankie before. So then I go in there, and one of my first training sessions, there's this guy, he had his blue belt. I think he just got his purple belt. So everybody was terrified of him. He was the most famous thing. And he would show some moves off, and then he would roll with everybody and just destroy him. And so his name was Matt Serra. Maybe you guys know him. And I remember getting guillotined about 500 times. So it must have been he must have been working different guillotines that day. I couldn't turn my head for a week. I'm wrecked, but I kept showing up, right? Kept showing up. It was I forget what it was on top of the methadone clinic, the famous stories. Everybody's ringwormed out. It's crazy, but it was this melting pot, this network of people that it was really incredible. But it was old school, Shark Tank. Right. Yeah. You're fresh meat. Let's see if you survive. And Henzo, what's really cool is he took a liking to me. He saw something, right? And the story that I like to tell is one day he was showing a move, and I just kept blowing the people off of me. They couldn't make the move work. Mm-hmm. And he came over and he whispered in my ear, and he put the move on me. He goes, come on, champ, let everybody get the move so we can move on. And he got it, and we got out. But then after, he was so great, and he was always so charismatic, one of the most charismatic guys I ever met. And he just said, hey man, what do you do? Or, what are you about? And I said, I have these degrees in exercise. I'm a physical therapist, but I love physical training. And this is my passion, but I'm really interested in this. This is great. And I'm telling you, I think he was such a visionary. These are the things you don't see about him. He was a visionary in the sport, but a visionary to see, because this was at the time when, the wrestlers, the Mark Kerrs, the Mark Colemans, these people were entering the sport. And I think he realized, man, if I'm going to start sharing everything that I know with these people, when all these people learn it, all things being equal. See, jiu-jitsu was originally created, or at least the mantra of it was, a smaller guy can defeat a bigger guy, because, wow, if my whole body's against your arm, I'm going to win. But the thing is, when both guys have jujitsu,
Yeah,
the silverback gorilla is a problem, right? And he saw that coming. And I remember he was like, "Hey, how about you train us in all your stuff, and and you travel around the world with us and do this?" And I said, "Absolutely, man. Like, where do I sign up?"
How old would you have been at this time?
I was in my late 20s, mid to late 20s. This is 98. Like, this is 98. So sometimes I say, and it doesn't sound like a lot, that's 27 years now.
The year I moved to Jersey.
Yeah, so 27 years ago, and here's what that led to. And Frankie knows this, because I'm giving the hierarchy to how we got there. Yeah, hey, Bill Parisi, I meet him. I leave physical therapy, the Parisi Speed School. We're going with that. We create this youth performance thing that has gone on to train millions of kids worldwide, which was so incredible. It led to all these experiences working with all high-level athletics. But the fighters, every day, it was almost like when the pros would leave, we'd have this window of like 10 a.m. to like 2 p.m. where no one was there. And I'll tell you, it was the who's who of the fight game or jiu-jitsu game, judo game, everything, wrestlers, everybody was in there, right? So Henzo brought Ricardo and Sean Alvarez and Rodrigo, and then it was Hadra Gracie, and then it was Braulio Estima, and then it was more fighters, and then there were fighters from all over coming, and Ricardo led to Frankie, and then Jim was there, and we just had this stable of guys that we were competing at a super high level, and everybody was winning. That was it was just this magical time where I think it was still so new. We were doing what nobody was doing, right? Like, and I'll tell you, we weren't sharing the information, right? Like I wasn't, what we were doing was like our thing, and then with the advent of YouTube and the stuff that you talked about, man, I wish I would have got started now, because these YouTube people make a lot of money and all this other stuff. I was 20 years too early on that, but our stuff has millions of views. Yeah. But it's and if you go back and you see some of the things he was doing, he was just and everybody knows it, but the physical conditioning and the stuff that he was able to do really set the standard for a lot of our Training for Warrior stuff. There's people all over the world that hate him because I started traveling around sharing. Then once I did start spreading this with Training for Warriors, there's this test called the 3-minute knee grab test. And it's a certain motion that we had kind of created to really create and core stability, but also endurance specifically for fighters to be able to get back up, move, everything. It was this test we put together. Well, I've never met anybody that can do what he did still to this day. And I would always use that in my seminars. I'd say, hey, so here's how it works. It's 3 minutes. You do 1 rep a set. That's 180 reps. Frankie Edgar did that, right? Like that doesn't sound bad, right? And man, nobody's even close. Like nobody can go.
I got a funny story. I took my kids, this is when my kids were into Jake Paul, right? This was, like 6 years ago maybe. And we're at the Starland Ballroom, and we're online. We get online, and one of the security guys notices me. He's like, "Hey, your kids want to meet Jake Paul?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I don't really, I'm like, my kids go there. He sees me. He's like, "Oh, Frankie, what's up?" He's like, "Me and my brother used to watch your dip videos."
See, that's them. Yes. See, now I got to tell my kids that, because they're gonna love hearing that. So we were talking about. So today was Jersey Shore Day. Now I'm gonna be like, "Hey, Jake Paul liked our video too." It was just so early, but this stuff, and you can go back to it. There was the push-up stuff. It was we were creating all these
body weight bench, right? Yeah.
Here's the interesting thing, Roger, because Frankie was there. What I do like to say sometimes, I will say with confidence, is no one was physically preparing mixed martial artists at that level for physical conditioning in the country. Like, we were the spot doing it. Like, that's where it started. But here's what made it tough. And someday I'll have to apologize to all these guys. So I was making a lot of it up as we went, right? Like, I was applying sports science. I was applying exercise science, nutrition, any kind of technology that was the latest stuff we could, but there was no rules for MMA, right? When I started, we were going to Pride. Yeah. Some of those Pride matches were unlimited time. Like, how do you, guess what my circuits looked like? Yeah. Hey guys, I guess we'll just go as long as till you can go.
Down, right? Yeah.
So I will say, I think I got lucky not wrecking guys, because knock on wood, we never hurt. People didn't get hurt. Like, people did get better. I see so much stuff sometimes, people getting hurt in their training or injured, or it just making them worse, where that is not the purpose, right? Like, because what a great story Frank and I have is then when you got me over with Rutgers Wrestling, right? And I always talk about this, which that was such a great experience. But when I was telling my friends, hey, now I'm going with the Rutgers wrestlers, they'd be like, are you killing those dudes? Are you killing them? And I said, guys, you have no idea what they're already doing. No, we're not there to kill them. We're there to make them better, right? And that was that classic mantra, right? Like anybody can make somebody tired, right? Like anybody can make somebody sore or beat up or show you something new that doesn't work. Not a lot of people make people better, right? And that was always, I think, from that Olympic mindset that I developed living at the Olympic Training Center, I always applied that to everything else. No, people weren't doing that with MMA and what we were doing, right? So he was getting the benefit of stuff, and I still don't think they're doing it. I watch stuff. I still watch stuff today, and people are crazy.
I still got to go back to the bobsledding thing. If you clearly you're an athlete. I mean, you work hard. You didn't make the Olympic team. You made the USA team.
Yep.
How did Jamaica get to the Olympics?
Well, you ready for this? See, for anybody listening, we didn't pre-script this. Well, number one, they haven't gone. Like, so you have to qualify, right?
I thought I saw
there's huge qualifications now. No, there's the movie and there was the stuff a long time ago. Things have changed.
So they never actually made the Olympics?
No, they've been to the Olympic Games, but not in a while. But check this out. Guess who's the head coach of the Jamaican bobsled team now?
Not John Candy.
No, that wouldn't be tough because they'd need a Ouija board to have it. No, Todd Hayes.
Oh, get out of here.
Is the Jamaican coach right now. So that buddy of mine, he has been the U.S. coach, the Canadian coach, won medals with everybody, and now he's in charge of the Jamaican team.
Wow, that's wild.
They obviously can't train there, right? Do they?
No, so they live, what it is, you find them there. Yeah. So what's very interesting is the level of athlete, because, when you're looking at pure speed and everything else, absolutely incredible. But
Jamaica always cranks out the best runners.
But what you would be shocked at is there is no. You would think they don't know the movie. That story you're telling, dude. That's also the '80s. So that's old. That's old now, right? And there's not a lot of money, and there's not a lot of money sometimes also from the nation itself, right, or support, right.
I just remember watching it, the actual Olympics, and everybody was like, "How are they going to do?" And then they
you got
ate shit like halfway down. You know what I mean?
But see, the saddest part is that's the end of the story right now. So I'm real excited about my guy. He's gonna make something happen in the stories. Then you get to rewrite the greatest story in history. Right? So that is what he's doing. So what is these kids come from there, but he lives in Lake Placid now. They train there, or they'll train in Whistler, and around the world. But the Olympics are this winter, so there's not a lot of time. Man. So right now, so many things have to happen for it to happen in terms of just qualifying to even go to the games. So remember the old days, there was a lot of people would show up. Now, I forget, just like wrestling. Can you imagine how hard it is to make the Olympics for wrestling or judo?
Yeah.
Like
and
judo.
Every year, and that's what I tell people, like being a fighter is easier than being to
try to go to Olympics.
Because you could be a top 20 fighter, top 30, and probably make a living. Yeah. You can't be top 30 in wrestling. You have to be the number one guy.
Yeah, you can't be two.
You can't be the second. Yeah. Exactly. And every year you have to do it. It's not like I won it this year, I'll be good for next year. Nope, you got to wrestle off for that spot again.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Yeah. Well, hey, I'm real close to some stories with that of training some guys that they were number 2, right? And one's a New Jersey guy, and but it's using that example so everybody that maybe is listening, it's not like, I'm the best in my country, now I go. For instance, track and field, it's even crazier because there are standards. So if you don't run like 997, you're not even eligible, right? Like it doesn't. You're the best. Yeah, you're the fastest guy in Ireland. Like you're not going to be in the 100-meter. Final. Right. If you can't run the time.
Change your gender and you're number 1.
Oh, no, don't get it going. Yeah. Where's this story going? Well, watch.
I see your daughters are, I don't know about all, but what do you have, 4 daughters?
Yeah, so 4 daughters.
And they're track stars, some of them, right?
Couple of them. Yeah. So my oldest was really cool. She, at one point had placed 10th in the U.S. in the heptathlon, but she went to Notre Dame for track and field. Oh, wow. Ended up she just transferred and she just graduated as class president from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill in dental hygiene. Wow. My second one is at Ole Miss, but then the third one, she was a swimmer, and then the third one just finished with a really great track season. That's amazing. So I was really pumped. And then the fourth one plays softball. So she really likes that.
All athletes, so that's great.
But it's cool that they love sports. Yeah. And you know what's funny? I think you just almost it's just kind of like it's not that you don't have any choice, but I will say that the parent, you're the one that's in control of what they're going to do or what they're around or what they get exposed to. So imagine, like, I always say, if you live around me, you're going to do sports, you're going to eat good, you're going to get a lot of sleep.
I do think, not every kid's going to be an athlete, but I think idle time is the devil's playground for sure. Your kids have to be involved in something, and sports should be the first choice, but, there are some kids that just aren't athletes or don't take a liking to it, but find something they like and keep them busy. You know what I mean?
I remember something you said actually way back, and about why don't we training Phil Simms' kid, son?
Yeah.
And I remember you saying why do a lot of professional athletes ended up have kids that have professional athletes? You say genetics definitely, but just know-how.
Yeah,
know-how.
Well, and both of his sons, right? Or look at the Manning boys, or whatever else. It's what they do, right? Like, hey, so if your dad's a carpenter, you might, you probably got a good chance of being a carpenter. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with that. Here's what I would second what Roger was saying, take it even stronger. The word I use that is passion. Yeah. Like, I don't think anybody ever helps kids when they're young figure out what they really love or what they want to do and then really go for it, right?
I also think you got to sprinkle them around, and they have to find what they like, and the only way they're going to do that is if you let them partake in a bunch of things. I mean, your oldest son, for example, he was into wrestling for a while, and then he got into football, and now he's kind of coming back around to wrestling. But, you know what I mean? So I think that you have to give them that diversity to see what they're going to like.
But it's also support it where it's find that thing, and then, but then the other part that I think a lot of people miss, like, hey, this is what makes Frankie unique. It's finding that thing, but then eventually here's what I say. Kids got to have parents that are supportive. You got to probably have a coach that really knows what they're doing. You got to have the resources to be able to do the thing that it takes. But the real ingredient is that kid if that kid doesn't want it, like, because I experience that a lot. I'm also a high school coach. And, I think a lot of times, even myself or the parents, we all want it so much more than that kid wants it, and it'll kill you.
Well, you see so many, and especially in the wrestling world, so many parents living through their kids and this and that. And, like, I'm not going to push my kids. I know that's what it takes to be successful. But I'm not going to push them to the point where I'm making them do it. Because I always tell everybody, it's got to be his pursuit. It can't be my pursuit. I already did my stuff. I already wanted a thing so bad that I was willing to get up and do this and that. He has to have that pursuit himself. I'll tell him, I'll lead him in the right direction to get it done, but it's up to him to have to do it.
And that's a hard part, right? Like, I come from Gen X, you would say. We were like the latchkey kids, the left alone kids. So you figured it out. You did it. You had to be driven because nobody was driving you. I think somehow because of that, this next generation of parents, which I'm one of, we became the helicopter people, right? Like, making sure everything's going to be okay. And the ones I'm experiencing now, I call them snowplow people. They're blasting. They're trying to get every bump in the road out of the way so the kid never faces adversity, where the adversity and that is the stuff, kid, right? So it is hard because as a parent, I get it. You like, to try to stay back is very difficult, but at the same time, you gotta let them do their thing.
Frankie a couple times, our kid's getting softer, and he says no. He says, in wrestling, he doesn't. You don't see it. You were saying
no. I mean, like, I think as like if you're to like generalize it, I think the whole society is definitely getting softer. But like wrestling, dude, is still wrestling. Man.
You
go in there, in some of these rooms, these dudes are.
Yeah, you're gonna find the pool of people. They're there. I guess what it is, but we're also manufacturing it, right? Like, I don't know. I don't have all the answers on that, but what I would say is some of the stuff, we didn't have phones when we were kids. Exactly. We didn't have so much access. Like, definitely, hey, I didn't get a rule book with my kids when they were born. How do you handle that? Even down to the social media stuff, where I see how it's affecting them, and the time that is being consumed that could be spent, like you're saying, like me, I spend my time on things that are productive, right? Like, I do not sit there and just time's getting wasted, because that's the one thing I can't get back. Like, that's the most valuable resource. Whereas I just look sometimes, and it's not just my kids. You just look, and everybody's there, eyes down, and they're just living through somebody else's life, thing.
I have two kids, and one of them, it's definitely an issue in my house with the phone, and the other one, not so much. I mean, I say, let's go do this, and he's about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, so it's a slippery slope. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah,
'Cause we put it in their hands. You know?
Well,
So-
and they're not real if they don't have it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
right,
it's almost now you'd be crazy if you weren't. And they see me because that's how a lot of my career has existed.
Sure.
Right. If
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was not social media, I wouldn't have been able to have done the things I could do or promote
have
that
the
stuff
reach, yeah.
or have the YouTube stuff or the Instagram stuff. It would have never have happened. But that's what I try to always tell them is, but I'm using that as a tool or leverage to do things versus
Using it as a crutch instead.
Yeah. So super difficult. But I will say this. I think I was given girls, everybody always says, oh, what's it like? 4 girls. And I think it's been great. But I think it is tough because he could probably comment on this. I don't know if I could have handled having all boys because one, I would be a wreck, with all the things they were doing. And I feel that it would have demanded, and it's not to say I haven't put in the time, but even more that I might not have been able to have done what I did, right? Like it is this weird thing that my whole day is spent with men. And I mean, like, men, I don't use that word lightly, like some pretty serious characters on planet Earth. And then I go home and get chewed to pieces by 5 women. And they always say, we're here to keep you in check, Dad. Like, we're here to keep you in line. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are killing me. Like, even this, where I felt really bad. So for everybody listening, I've been telling Frankie, I've been so excited about this. I'll be there at 9. And so I was almost 10 minutes late. I'm never late for anything. You know what happened? My kids took my car. And they took it to the Jersey Shore house. So I had to take my wife's car, go meet him. I'm like, guys, because the books and the other stuff was in the car. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, hey, Dad, look at this shirt I got. And look at this thing. And,
great.
no, and it's so it's almost. But I know they know what we've done too, because there's been nothing cooler than seeing my kids succeed, but also being the coach for it. So I've been the coach. Just like. But it's hard, right?
Hard.
Like I'll have to show you a video after. We just had our banquet for track and field because in North Carolina, where I live now, school's already over. We had the big ending banquet, and I didn't think I was going to get emotional, and I had to give out the MVP, and my daughter won the MVP for the sprints, and I just started off, and it hit me. I said, "Man, the hardest role in the world to play is coach and dad," and I told everybody, I told the whole group, I said, hey guys, and I know you'll agree with it, I'm harder on her than anybody because I'm so afraid you're going to think I'm playing favorites.
Right.
And then I just looked at her and I said, I'm sorry. Like, I just said, I am sorry because I'm not making it fun, right? Like, so for advice, and if anybody could crack this code, write me and tell me about it. It's when you're dad, you're less fun. It's work or let's go or you got to do this and I, because I want to do so well and I know I only have so much time and I know what it's going to take and all these things. And maybe that would be my one regret, where when we're working with guys like us and you guys, you're as driven and we're all going. It's, we're having fun along the way, but it's not about that. Whereas with your own kid, it is a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I would say to my boys, I'm always like, my boys more than the girls. My daughter, she's still a little young, but, I'm always like, listen, my job's not to be your friend. My job is to make you a man. You know what I mean?
To your daughter?
No, not my daughter. To my boys. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be your friend. We'll be friends eventually. We'll be friends eventually. But,
but that's what I mean. I know they're going to thank you for it. And I know they respect you as a parent. I know it. But it's almost like their job to get pissed off. And, and man, I always say this. I know I'm a good coach now. And I always make a joke and it's not because, oh, wow, Frankie won the title or Jim's got the most fights ever or down to, hey, the Giants did this or this team did that or, these high school teams. It's like if you can coach your
I always say that,
teenage daughter, your 15-year-old, your 16-year-old, and they don't hate you at the end, you did a good job.
Yeah, or you got the results that you get. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's why I always say, Steve Rivera.
Yeah.
And his son, Sebastian.
Yeah, are you kidding?
I mean, dude, that's the best.
They have the best relationship, it seems like.
They have a great relationship.
Really
and just as far as, it
reaches no higher level.
Yeah, what kind of credibility? Your kid is an Olympic, took 30
medalist.
Olympics. That's about the highest credibility you can get.
Yep.
No, and absolutely. No, and I... because we've met, we've met so much, and that's like the grail, right? Now, here's the hard part too. Here's some great advice. And hey, we're on to the parent thing. Some great advice I got, a few pieces, because your kids are still coming up. first one that, and this was a psychologist that gave me this because I was dealing with it. Hey, I'll be honest, my daughter, when she decided she didn't want to stay at Notre Dame anymore, that was hard, right? I think, but watch, and I'll explain why. And I had a lot of conversations, and it was because, and then I had come to the conclusion, and this is the advice you have to always ask yourself is, whose dream is it anyways? Like, whose dream is it? See, this was my, it was a big part of my dream, track and field and Division I, and you're going to do these things. And she had done everything she wanted to do. She did it. But then it became like her dream was dental hygiene, and that they don't have that there. And her dream was something else. And so it's weird because at first you got to instill the dream. Along the way, you can't kill the dream, but eventually that's what's their dream, right? And because a kid at first, you got to give them something. And I always wanted to say, let's go to the highest level.
You can't get hyper focused on that whole don't start something that you're not going to finish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I remember hearing my dad say that. Don't
I'm
start.
kind of like that, though.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
like, if it's during the
I know,
season,
but what if the
you want to
dream
quit, you
came-
got to wait till after the season, buddy.
Well, remember, for a season, but I see what you're saying too, and this is this hard thing, right? Like, so somehow,
But she's figuring out life, too,
Yeah.
not just a sport.
Yeah,
That's
different,
you know what I mean? That's a life
But-
goal
but
and a
what
life envision and an income to support yourself for the rest of your life. So it's a little different, but
and it leads to the next thing they said is, and this was a tough one too, is what is your relationship outside of sports? And that one, that I did the same thing. And it was because that's what I think about. That's what I do. That is my passion. This is what I love. But I did realize, hey, we have favorite movies. We have certain things. But here's what we did this season for track. Like my third one, man, after every meet, we went to Waffle House. We celebrated, let her eat what you want. We talked about, and the rule was no talking about track at the thing. And I got a lot of cool selfies of us and pictures from that I think that was the right way to do it because, man, if it's all business, like here's what happens, and I've watched it happen. Then when it goes and there's no more that the kid says, I don't want to stick it out.
Yeah, right.
Then there's no relationship, or they feel like they let you down or something.
what do you got? You guys are, hardcore athletes. You're super driven, super motivated. Me, maybe not so much. But what do you do when you're empty nesters and they've left? What's your focus become then? What do you do then?
Well, that could segue to the next thing, which hasn't happened yet. Remember, I have a 12-year-old still, so I got a lot of years to go. But it is weird that two of them are kind of out of the house. Third one, we got another. She'll be a senior, so it is coming. My vision, and I don't know, like he knows, like I'm always coaching, so like I
always have kids.
Yeah, it's like you always got them, and I think in some ways it's going to be easier when my kids aren't there.
Yeah, right.
Like I'll tell you this, there's few things that are scarier than when the cage door closes and you're in the corner and it's your guy in there. It's terrifying. Right. Like it's that, I can only imagine when it's your son wrestling, in something big. I don't even want to stomach what it is. But the thing is, somebody has to be there for him and be that person. So I always see myself leveraging the talents, which might be another biggie, right? Like even for you guys, or it's a great advice for Frankie too, because I saw this a lot with all the Olympic guys or all the pro fighters and the NFL guys. Another piece of it is what's their identity, or what is the identity, right? Like, because so many people see, oh, it's over. Well, this was my identity. This is who I was, and this is what I have, and then they feel like there's nothing else. There's more.
Yeah,
right.
I Steve would say this. He's like, wrestling isn't who we are; it's what we do.
Yeah,
we do a lot of things. And like that's talking like with my kid. In order to be good at wrestling nowadays, you gotta. He wrestles 6 days a week.
Yep.
He wrestles 6 days a week, 12 months a year. So like he wants to take a day off to go dirt biking with his buddies. I'm like, go ahead, buddy. You gotta let him want to do it. You gotta let him have fun. And it's not like he's sitting around. He's getting a little cardio in, you know what I mean?
Right.
But that is the hardest part. And even my youngest with the softball, that's what it is. It's like hitting coach, fielding coach, playing on two teams, so all summer doing everything. And if you're not, you're
left behind.
Yeah. And which that is a scary part about sports. Some people would say, oh, we're overprogrammed, whatever else. But that machine produces
Don't you
people
think
at the
in
end.
Russia they're doing that? Come on.
Well,
in Russia they specialize. I think they're a little bit more specializing right now. They put you in where you're going to be.
Well, remember, right now Russia's in trouble where they're not even allowed to go to anything right now.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying as far as like their culture with their sports.
Well, I think that was what was called the Eastern Bloc methodology, where what it was is they don't have as many people as the United States. Remember, we have a huge pool of athletes, and we have a sport culture.
Right.
So how I always understood it would be there were these, kind of doctors, coaches would travel around, and they'd do that kind of testing stuff. Hey, you guys jump, you do this. Hey, tell me how tall your parents are. What do you do this with that? And like the littler guy that was explosive and fast, you're going to go wrestle. The this guy, you're going to be 7 feet tall. You're playing basketball. You're going to be a farmer. You, the slow twitch kind of guy that can't really move or catch this ball.
You don't have a choice.
Yeah, you're going to go.
Choice
You're going to go bang rocks. But the whole thing was that machine works that way too. So see, in America, where I would say if we were to go all in like that, we let the kids pick the sport or the parents pick the sport. That's not always the best sport for that. Like, imagine if you would have wanted to be a basketball player.
Right.
He did.
And there's nothing against
I did
that.
play basketball. I did.
This guy thought he was going to be a fucking
Listen,
baseball player.
I'm gonna tell you this. You'll like this. It was the only sport you could play in elementary school was basketball. There's no other sport. It's the only sport. I was like, I'm trying. I'm an athlete. I'm gonna play sport. I practiced every day. Shooting the
it's
ball
still the
before
mentality.
And guess what? I was the only fifth grader to make the team. How you like that?
That's pretty good.
I like that.
That's pretty good.
And he was probably the tallest guy on the team.
Yeah.
No, but you know what I'm saying. Meaning, here's
First
the thing.
and last time he was ever tall.
No, but and remember, that's the challenge, though, right? This is what I'm getting at but we could have probably accurately predicted you weren't going to be 6'5" to 7'2", and then that is what I'm getting at. So not that you shouldn't have tried that or that wasn't an idea, but the kid that gets tied up in that imagine we would have found right from the beginning, and you're doing wrestling 6 days a week from whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's how that machine worked, right? That's what it was called, a sports machine. But there's pros and cons because that was no relationships and who knows what they're doing everybody. And, there's a lot of stuff behind that, but there's no best way to do it. But having done so much in youth performance for so long, that whole identification process was big. And hey, I used it loosely in my own home. 2 of my kids were fast twitch, explosive. They're my sprinters. My second daughter, the one that, is the biggest Jersey Shore fan when she was buying all this stuff today. We took, but we tried it all. She did her first race, got her doors blown off. I was like, okay, it's not this sport. We got to find a sport. She fell in love with swimming and became an all-state swimmer. Yeah. But you see how that was a totally different type of athlete requirement, but she was best suited for that, right? And actually developed the body style and everything for that, where that was the best thing we could have done because she could not have excelled the same way in track. Now, that's me guiding the ship some, but another parent might say that's crazy, but I'll tell you what, my kids I really think for kids to enjoy great success or kids to have achieved is huge because now that that's over, they're applying that to other things.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
So it's hard, right? There's no right answer. But the other thing was you said, what would I do when they all go? And interesting story. So we've got the perfect segue. So my buddy is now the Jamaican bobsled team coach. But what I didn't tell you is in between there, he got cancer, really bad, talking like Lance Armstrong bad, like first testicular, then lung, then brain. But he ended up beating that. Wow. So he beat that. But then a decade later, which was only a couple years ago, he got it again. It was back, right? Colon cancer. Jeez. And, so first thing I'll say for any guys that are listening, this is a good one, little message, because I always like to have some wisdom. Do you know what the number one killer of guys is?
Cancer.
Women.
No. Yeah, watch. No, watch. Everybody says cancer, heart disease, this. No, it's watch. Ready? Neglect. Neglect.
Oh yeah.
It's because watch. We neglect our health, and then you get heart disease. We're bleeding in the toilet, but we ignore it till we're thinking it's going to get better. Like neglect. We don't get a colonoscopy. We don't do preventative stuff. We don't get a physical, and so he was neglecting stuff. Right. And it ends up they find out what it is, and he has to be treated in New York City at a place, where he stayed was the Hope Lodge because he wasn't living in New York. But there's this place, the Hope Lodge, that puts you up in New York City, takes you to your appointments, feeds you, gives you a great room, all this stuff. And I was going up there to see him, right? And he's losing all this weight, but he attacked it like an Olympian. Like he's got the mindset, right? He's like, I'm going to figure out everything about this. I'm going to beat this. I'm going to starve this out of myself.
That's what they say.
Did he fast?
Oh, did he fast? He was doing 30-day fasts.
Wow. I saw a guy today that popped up that was stage 4 cancer, had been fasting for 40 days, and he's convinced he's going to put himself in remission.
Well, get ready for this. So it ends up, he's doing all that stuff. We're going through the treatment. But when I'm up there, one day we're sitting there and they got this big library there. And he goes, hey, man, I'm losing my mind. You read a lot. you write a lot. Pick me out a book. And I said, how about instead of picking you out a book, why don't I write one about this character I've always thought of that you inspire me about? And like, we'll go along and we'll write this thing together, right? Like this action thriller I always wanted to write, something totally different, just like this badass, like the dude of dudes, right? And he's like, let's do it. And for months and months, as he's beating this thing and he's going through it and everything else, I write this thing. And it ends up in great news. He does beat it. Actually, he pushed it so into remission, the doctors still can't even believe that the tumor shrunk so much that he didn't have to have surgery and all this other stuff, which is all actually, we outline the whole protocol in the book too, but not as if I'm doing a science thing, but I show it. Right. And so the whole thing is that I had this book. Right. And wait, this is going to, I don't even know you know this story. So then I've got this book, but I don't know what to do with it. I'm not an action thriller writer, but I know the thing is good. Everybody I show it to, they're like, holy shit, like this thing is good, man. So we're in New York City for Jim's fight. Frankie and I open up the stock exchange that morning, which was really cool. Yeah, was cool. So we opened up the New York Stock Exchange, which was nuts. And Jim and I are sitting there because now he's losing weight. He's getting going. I go, Jim, I'm on a roll today. Today was like awesome. I said, you watch this. And I look and I call a publisher in New York City because that's where all the publishing houses are. I knew one guy and I call him and I said, hey man, I wrote this book. This is not the style of book I've done before. This is motivation. This is not coaching. This is action thriller and this thing is good. He goes, we don't do that. I said, okay, I know that, but do you got a name for me? Do you got one guy that you know? And you know what he says? He says, no. And I said, no, and that's when I knew. I looked at Jim and I'm like, I could either hang up the phone and that's it, and this thing dies, or I can push a little further. And I said, wait a minute, you're supposed to be really awesome at what you do. 30 years in this industry, in this city, you don't know one guy, you don't got one name? And he's like, well, tell me about it again. And he goes, let me guess. He goes, is this about an ex-CIA guy or an FBI guy or a doctor or a detective or an agent or an ex-military guy that spit out by the system and now he's killing everybody? And I go, no. My guy's the guy that actually kills those guys. And he's like, I go, my guy's a regular guy because a tough killer can come from anywhere. And he's like, ooh, I'm listening. And he goes, you know what? I got one name. All I can make is an intro. I said, give it to me. He gave me the intro. I write that guy, and that guy goes, I know exactly who you are. Oh my God, what and you're in for the UFC. This is awesome. He goes, send it over. Send it over. He's like, we're doing this thing. It's awesome. Hell yeah. And first time showing it off. So this is the first podcast that I'm doing about it. The book is called Blood Feud. This is what my buddy looks like. A lot of people are like, oh, that looks like Jack Reacher. No, it also looks like my buddy, which is different. Forrest actually gave it a thing on the back, which is really cool. But the whole thing is, the messages, and these are for you guys, but cool. But the message of it, remember my buddy Lucas, he came and shot the photo. So I went with like some crazy photo to look like,
Lucas,
I wanted everybody, I wanted everybody to know, hey guys, this is not your smiley, nice Martin Rooney. Don't hold this one against me.
This is awesome.
But this was, how you said, what do you want to do? I've always loved writing. He knows I've been writing for 25 years, articles. Then the articles I was on the editorial council for Gracie Magazine. Then I'm writing for Men's Health. Then I'm writing for all these websites. Then I'm writing books. And
like 8 books, right?
12 books. So this is 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, I actually wrote a really killer, one of the books, which is called Success Principles. There's a whole chapter on him in that. Shit. Yeah. Which is really cool. See, it's like, I'm forgetting all these, but ultimately, I would love to take a crack. So this is only book 1 of what should be 5. It comes out this is going to be a series. All right, hell yeah. And hey, this guy has cancer. He's at the Hope Lodge, right? And these hitmen try to kill him. He doesn't know why, but this is the wrong dude to try to kill. And then he starts to uncover, hey, wait a minute, like there's some serious conspiracies about cancer going on, which as he was going through this whole thing, we were starting to imagine that. So it was almost so inspired by what happened as we were writing this thing that it just took on a life of its own. So like it's everybody that's read
almost
it.
Reminds me of that guy, who's the guy that shot the CEO of the insurance.
Oh yeah.
Luigi
Mangione. Yeah. Almost reminds me a little bit of him.
Well, here's what's crazy about it, Roger. When you say that, is everybody that's read this thing says all this stuff could be happening. Like, holy cow! Like this all could be real, right? Like I think that's what the authenticity of it is, that it gives them.
Is there in the medical talking about how the medical industry is corrupt? Isn't that a little bit? Is that a little bit?
I would say even worse. Like there's so many things when you'll see, because it does do a little examination of some stuff. But yeah, I'll let people make their own decisions on it. Yeah. Do not hold. I'm a writer. I'm just a writer. These are not my. Yeah, this is
fiction.
Yeah, this is a fiction thing. Any coincidences are. But no, because I guess what I'm saying is I don't know to give away too much of the story or not.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what it is it's not just corruption, but there are evil conglomerates of people that they got cures to a lot of these things, but they don't make them available. But what they do is use them as mega fundraisers for other bad things.
You know, we've talked about that.
And he finds this
before.
out, and he's killing person to person to get to the head of the snake.
Oh, that's cool. I like it.
We've talked about that before. Like, you know, obviously, we think there's got to be some cures to things, but then you wonder, like, why is Steve Jobs dead? You know what I mean? That guy should be alive. If anybody was going to be alive, it would be that guy. You know, so.
Well, and again, I didn't make this as because Jim loves conspiracy, he's so all in, and I didn't write it as a conspiracy thing. Take it as you're going on a ride.
Sure.
So this is. I don't even know how to describe it because there aren't a lot of books like it. This is this guy. It's his origin story of where you see where this dude came from and why this dude is so tough and why he's so bad. But that a bad dude can come from anywhere. Like he didn't have to be. And this is nothing. Hey, I've worked with the U.S. military. It's nothing against military, but that doesn't make you tougher than the guy that just grew up hard, right? And was an athlete, you know. So this guy grew up and he's an athlete and he's just super tough. Those are the guys I know. So that's what I wrote, right? He doesn't have to be FBI or CIA or any of these things. And I couldn't have written to that because I don't know those things, right? Like that's what they say. A writer can only write what he knows. But it was this. He was going through this thing, and where it all started. You watch this. Where it all started was he was attacking it like an Olympian, and he started really researching so deep when he would go to his doctors and say, hey, I want high dose vitamin C. I'm seeing that this can make a great difference. And they would say, no, we're not doing that. And he would go, what do you mean you're not going to do that? We're not doing that. We don't know if we don't have proof. He goes, can it hurt me? They go, no. He goes, then I want to do it. No. So he would find somebody that would do it. So all the, like, that's how I said, a lot of the protocol, a lot of the stuff that he did do, we weave it into the story anyway. But again, guys, do not take me as medical advice here. I am not curing cancer.
Listen, I mean, the cure might be better in here
but
than it is at your doctor's office.
But watch this. So this is where the idea came from. Two of them that started the whole book thing. When he came back from that, and he was like, man, why are they, it's like they're holding me back. Well, that hatched the idea. So in the book, why those hitmen are after him is because he was pressing the doctor so hard. The doctors thought he knew that there was this cure out there that this guy knew about. So he got spooked and alerted them to this dude that is doing this. That's what is like their bad mistake. And I remember one day Todd was, man, he was so emaciated and just it was so hard, but like, dude's such a fighter. And I said, dude, could you imagine, as we're writing this thing, I said, can you imagine if these people were here and there was this kind of stuff out there? And he goes, dude, if that was true, I would kill everybody. And that would and I was like, we're writing this thing, man. And that was, because imagine, like, you're watching all these people suffering.
The crazy thing is it might be true.
No, again, where's the camera? In Blood Feud, it's a great story. This is a great story.
Did you hear Mel Gibson on Rogan's? Did you hear him talking about
methylene blue, right? And,
fenbendazole. What is it? Fenbendazole. He says he has 4 friends that were terminally ill with cancer. They took ivermectin and fenbendazole and something else, and none of them have cancer.
Wasn't that methylene blue or whatever too? Yeah, I think
maybe. Maybe. If you're right. Yeah.
So remember,
back to the book.
No, but meaning, like, again, picture it as I wanted to just write this action thing because I don't feel, it's kind of funny how you said, hey, are people as tough anymore or whatever else? I feel another thing that shaped me is being raised in the 80s. Like, I was raised on Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, like every action hero and every action movie like that. I just loved that. And Where are those anymore?
I know.
It's funny. I watched that Liver King documentary, and he said what inspired him was those movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it shaped us.
That's probably some of the reason why I fight is because of
Rocky,
movies like that.
you are the real life Rocky. You literally are, bro. You
But
literally
that's
are.
what I mean is we become those identities, and I feel like, well, who's that? We don't have that character now. And hey, nothing against Harry Potter, nothing against, but these are like, this is what everybody likes.
You know who I'd be,
right? Like,
Frankie? Over the top.
Yeah.
I'd be the truck driver guy.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
Lincoln
Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah, Lincoln Hawk.
Yeah.
No, I thought he was gonna be Bull Hurley.
Yeah.
But those though, that's what I mean is it shaped me so much when I'm getting this thing on is
Those were the best movies, by the way, in the 80s.
But
The
that's
best
what I
movies.
always say is this is an 80s book for
Dude,
now.
I
Like,
mean,
this is an 80s book.
Let's hope. Hey, maybe it ends up being a 25 movie.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and that is obviously it was never done to have that vision. But here's what is pretty cool.
That will be your empty nester days. That's what you can focus on.
No,
is the
I could
movies.
see it now. Like one of my dreams is because this is with a real publishing house. This isn't self-published. It's a real publisher. And what they also said was, one, we love the story, but we see this thing as a movie so strong, we want to sign you because we believe we're going to be able to shop that thing.
Wow,
right?
that's great.
And but again, here's the thing about the book industry, though, and this would be, you want to talk not conspiracy, but hey, there are millions of books published a year. 99.9% of all books don't sell a couple hundred copies in their lifetime, right? It's people selling it to their friends or whatever else. Now, I have sold, over 100,000 books of all the other books. So I'm a winner in the space, but not in this space. But I get how hard it is. So writing the book, I would never say it's easy. I can't say like, oh, writing the book was the easy part. Writing a book is hard. Marketing a book or getting it out there in a world where everybody's attention span is like a gnat,
right.
That's hard, right? Like, and if anybody if anybody wants to write me on the secret of how you do that, because that's going to be my next thing is now I got to get the word out.
Viral moment. So just if you want to just reach across and punch Frankie in the face, you'll be on the bestseller list.
Yeah. Martin Rooney went nuts, and smashed Frank with his snowboard over the back of the head.
What's that thing you say? I remember you used to say like, if you want to be a world champ, you got to do like what world.
Yeah,
champs
you got to do
right?
what world champs do all the time. So, and that's how I'm trying to attack this again. But do you see how it's almost like entering a whole new space, right? It was almost because they would say, "Well, get to all your network," and I'm like, "Man, but my network isn't action thriller authors, so I'm trying to figure that out." Or let
Henzo get the word out.
But remember, same thing. Even then, is that our circle? Like our circle may not all be readers. So hey, anybody that's listening to this, if you like action thrillers, and man, you want a new hero, you want a badass book that you're going to say, wow, because this thing is visceral. I'm telling you, I'll
probably be done in a week.
No, and what you're going to love, there's
Give me a couple months.
Yeah. No, but there's a couple scenes, and it was written strategically, very short chapters, keeps you moving. But there's a wrestler character in here that I think you're going to like a lot. And what Forrest liked about it and what he said was the fight scenes were so authentic. Like some of the stuff I hated to do, because I read like a maniac. Like I'm such an avid reader, and the stuff I'll read, it'll be like, and then he got behind him and he twisted his head fast and his neck broke and he died. And I'm like, man, I have wrenched with all my force on somebody's head and neck, and
they're still alive.
Yeah, and they're not just alive. Then they beat me up, right? And it's just, or it'll be like I chopped him on the side of the neck and he was out cold. At least we know for 2 hours. And I'm like, man, I wanted to make something like real, right? Like the real way that it goes. Or the other stuff I hate, like a guy will get everybody gets shot in these books. I read all these thrillers; they all get shot, and it's like, oh, but it went clean through, So I'm okay. I put my hand on it. Now it's already starting to clot. I'm like, man, you've either never put your hands on somebody, you've definitely never been shot. Which I didn't write about getting shot because I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what that is, but I wrote it from a standpoint I think you're gonna feel it, right? Like you're gonna be like, yeah, like that's really how it would go down, So I think I'm hoping to bring a unique flavor to it and maybe shake the industry up, because I will say I'm going to be scary for this industry because I am real. You know what I mean?
Right,
like I'm coming from a different space, right? That you don't see a lot of that,
Sure.
right? And most of the people that write about certain things, they aren't those things where
Probably 400 pounds.
or not even that, but it'll be like an example, and this is nothing against it because my dad loves the books, but the Jack Reacher books, which everybody's talking about because now the show is big.
Who? It's not Jack Carr.
No,
Jack Carr.
No, Jack Carr's a Navy SEAL, but he wrote Terminal List and some other ones.
yeah, right,
but so the guy that originally wrote it, Lee Child, he's from England. So he's from England, writing about a MP in the U.S. Army, which an MP I don't even know if would do what or the military police when you really see what that is.
They only got clubs over there.
Yeah.
They don't have guns.
Yeah, I don't know, but do you see what I mean? And it's cool because that's their thing, and you can never take away from what somebody has done. But what I'm saying is, I want somebody, hey, if they're gonna get this thing, they can believe it too, or something. Yeah, but at the same time, I guess, hey, in the defense of any of it, we're all writing fantasy and being a great writer. And
but it's good to have a little skin in the game. You know what I mean? To kind of have a little more.
No, for sure,
realistic.
Well, and not just that, but it's the experiences, right?
It's almost more important though if it ever does get made into a movie to have the visual effect be authentic, because so many movies suck.
Yeah,
because like fighting movies, they just suck because you see the guy clearly missed by 3 feet and he throws a punch and the guy goes down. It's what's the most. Good question for Frankie. Well, both of you guys, for you too, Martin. The most authentic fight movie you think you've ever seen?
I think Guy Ritchie movies are pretty authentic.
Well, and because I can remember being at Henzo's and he was there.
Yeah, because he's a Henzo Gracie black belt.
Okay. But that's why you see it always drip in.
How about this, though? Remember, Lethal Weapon 1.
Well, he puts a triangle on him.
Yeah,
he does it.
Busey.
Yeah.
And you know who was the fight coordinator for that one? It was Horion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe Horion Gracie was the fight coordinator for that.
Well, hey, even if we fast forward from the originals to I just watched the John Wick series with my dad.
Yeah.
And here's what I would say. Hey, Keanu they're pulling stuff off, and I know they train a lot, but what lacks authenticity is you can't get hit by 5 cars and get slammed, stabbed, shot, and you're still fighting for an hour and a half straight. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, at least a lot of the judo throws and some of the stuff they pull off.
He trained a bunch. He trained a bunch for that.
But I guess I don't know.
He's an avid shooter too. I
can only imagine the amount of training.
I'd like to hang out with that guy.
Oh man,
you want to blow him?
Always to the gay shit.
Yeah, he said hang out. But I would say for like authenticity, I think it's tough, right? Because remember, it's cinema. It's you want to be entertained. Maybe we do go on a little fantasy ride.
Yeah, it would have to be a little bit, right? You want to kind of get lost in it.
Yeah, but definitely, I would say this: if we did the reverse, like I love just sports movies too, and wrestling or something. Like a lot of times, the sport movies themselves don't pull it off. As if it is. As if they're as good, hey, going back to the 80s, like I was raised on Vision Quest. I watch Vision Quest like once a year, although then my kids got older.
BML Rad. Remember Rad?
Yeah, the BMX. But so a funny Vision Quest story, because it's one of my favorite movies, and I think it's one of the greatest movie soundtracks too.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I'm like, I had this summer where my kids, I want them to watch all the 80 movies that I did. And now it's time for Vision Quest, and I can't wait. Man, you forget all the stuff they pulled on us in the 80s. Yeah. Like there's there's the guy gets attacked by the other guy in the hotel room. Yeah. Then he kind of really attacks the girl in the house. Then he gets with the girl too, which is different age. But the one that always gets me, that I can't say I ruined it for myself, but Carla was her name. When she comes into Loudon Swain's into the locker room, and I always thought it was the greatest motivational speech ever, how it was like, I'm just gone. I had to go. And she comes back in and then she's like, hey, and Loudon, kick his ass, and I think it's the greatest thing ever until I realized, what's that lady doing in the boys' locker room and no one else is in there? Right. How did that go down? How does that happen? That I didn't even notice till it was way later, because I think her real name was like Fiorentino or whatever. She just had me so mystified by watching it that I didn't even realize she's in the locker room now. Like
you'll never see movies like they were back in the day. They were in a whole new world that just would never be allowed. Never get the funding.
So many of them.
We're coming back to it, I think.
Name one movie.
Hey,
name one.
Blood Feud.
There we go. Blood Feud, baby.
But I would say it is perfect timing for that too. That if this came out 2 years ago, it'd be a problem. Yeah. Where hey, to write takes courage. Meaning there was some stuff. Sometimes I'm writing, I'm like, oh man, this might offend somebody or whatever else. But this is because there are flashbacks to the 80s. Like that's what I love is a lot of the flashbacks are in the 80s. Hey, we talked a certain way then that I can't be held against how we did talk, but yet people try to do that. So what I would say is I do feel the shift to everybody's going to be ready for something like this. You know what I mean? So
I think there's definitely the need for it for sure. People want it, but just you don't see it much anymore compared to what we grew up on.
Yeah. Well, here's a theory I was talking about it too, from the 80s. See what you guys think of this. You know who I thank a lot for who I am and why I'm the way I am? You could say 80s movies. You could say we were latchkey kids. We could say Gen X. But you know what I think? And this is probably controversial. Not as controversial as we got the cure to cancer. But I think, like, being bullied, there was always... Like I got bullied.
Yeah, we've talked about that on the show.
Have you?
think,
Okay.
I think every kid is going to experience now. When kids are like mass bullied, cyber bullied,
No, yeah.
that there needs to be a stop to that because kids commit suicide.
Yeah.
But every kid, I was bullied a little bit. I think it's healthy to be bullied a little bit.
Yeah.
It makes you dig down deep and see for boys especially. I don't know about girls. Girls is kind of a
But
whole
it's
new
but it's
thing
almost
to me,
again that adversity thing or this shaping thing.
Yeah.
That like I'll tell you this, like I got bullied, I got pushed around. Like that's the first day I lifted weights. Like you know, somehow it was like somehow it was like, hey, I'm gonna be able to stop this thing. I'm gonna be like, I guess who I am trying to always tried to been since is you won't do that. Right? Like that's a big mantra of this character. He like that was a big part of Todd's philosophy. He was like, nobody bitches me. Like I'm not getting
bitch.
Yeah, no, I'm not look, watch it's the look.
Yeah,
He's nobody's bitch.
Nobody's bitch.
And it's just like, I think, but unfortunately, how it was then, hey, that's how it went. Like you went through the hierarchy. I don't think I grew up to be a bully. I definitely did not. But what I'm saying is, yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, but it's like we bully ourselves. Maybe that does something. But there was this adversity or this stuff that I think by removing that, man,
Take some things away.
Yeah.
Well, it's just not giving, obviously bullying holds true more to children than adults, but it's not giving kids a real sense of the real world. You're going to experience adversity throughout your entire life. And I think, when kids are picked upon by an nth degree by a lot of kids, it's wrong. It's wrong in every way, and somebody needs to step in and stop that. But like I remember, there was a kid. His name was Jake. He was older than me, and for whatever reason, he was a senior. I was a freshman. He wanted to kick my ass all the time. It made me tougher.
Yeah,
I was like, well, I'm going to have to fight this
and
guy.
Made him good at running.
Yeah, and remember to be clear on this. I didn't say, I don't have the answer to that one either. Like, hey, let kids bully or bring back bullying. What I'm saying is that generation of ours, that was just how it went. There was no one coming to help
We
you.
have a friend that has a clothing line, and that's his mantra on all his
Bring
shit.
back
Bring back bullying and bring back insane asylums. I mean, to a degree, he's not wrong.
That's
but
why I always say though, sports is like my kids grow up good. Your kids probably grow up very good,
better than me,
right? Yeah, better than
I
we did, right?
Yeah.
They don't have much adversity in their lives. The best way to introduce adversity in their lives is make them pursue something.
Yeah.
And like a sport or even in a classroom, because you're going to get disappointments. You're going to get stuff that happens that you're not expecting. You're going to get that adversity that you need. Like wrestling, even more so. It's just one-on-one competition.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Think about it, it's the ultimate bullying. Like you're either
Well,
going to
you
get
gotta
bullied,
get your ass
you're going to get bullied, or you're bullying.
It's physical. You
Yeah.
know, it's emotional. It's all that stuff. So I think, get your kids in sports. Is the best way to kind of bully-proof them in a way.
Well, or have 4 daughters and you'll get bullied all day long.
Yeah.
Like now maybe that's what's making me tough again. I'm getting bullied all the time. But again, what I was trying to get across, it was bringing it back that it was just a different day and age that it did shape you. Those 80s movie, like every 80s movie, it's somebody's getting bullied. Like look what happened. Actually, the over the top. You made the over the top reference. Remember, the kid's getting bullied.
Yeah.
Rips his sleeve off. Then the kid he trains to beat that guy. And it's almost like
the Goonies. You had to do the truffle shuffle to get in the house.
But those are the people. But that bully made you better.
Right. Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it was weird. I don't even know why I thought of that, but I think it's because there is a scene in this where one of the big scenes is they have decided, him and his brother have decided, we're not going to be anybody's bitch anymore. Like it's over. Like it's on. And like
what was the movie? Walking Tall. Was that it?
Yeah.
Where,
Well, Walking Tall.
Michael Douglas, was that Walking Tall? Where he,
Oh no,
he was
Man
just
on Fire?
No.
Was that it? Where he was just
No,
a normal guy?
I know what you mean.
And he just fucking lost his shit one day.
That's
and,
one where he has the
Man on
briefcase.
Fire.
No, Man
Was
on
it,
Fire is Denzel Washington. It's
Falling Down.
Falling Down.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that one.
He
he's
was
not
just a
taking
normal
anymore.
guy, kind of a nerdy dude that one day just said, had enough and just said, fuck
Well,
it. He's taking no more shit.
Yeah, well, a great example, and I like how you're doing that one because that is this guy's code is like I think this is the guy every guy wants to be, but the world's not set up for that guy to be that
No,
guy. You
it's
got to
really
you got to
not.
prepare for the consequences.
What is Jordan Peterson? Every man should have
dude,
a
he's too
monster.
much, bro.
He is too much now. But one of his original was every man should have a monster in them, and you learn how to control that monster. Or
he
something
ain't got
like
no
that.
monster.
No, he don't. He don't have a monster. He got the shot. He got the shot. But he does. He is an.
But it's a good
intellectual,
idea.
and he
Yeah.
does have some good quotes. He does have some good quotes.
He's got but I would say that idea, right? Like if we're talking man stuff, I think that's what there's like a code I think people are going to distill out from this guy. And it was something that I got from being around him was in real life was like, dude, like you don't realize how much shit you do get from people until you've decided you're not taking that anymore. From the shoulder into from somebody to the road rage, somebody giving you the finger to somebody like, who knows what, like you're just walking at somebody that, like really gives you some shit.
We live in a world of laws now. There was a time where we didn't. And it was a much simpler time, and you could do something about that back then,
But what I mean is, imagine you still do, because it's almost that alpha idea, which I think is really cool in there. Is this guy's not going to tolerate that? Doesn't mean you're not shooting someone or anything else, but it's going to be you're going to now show you're here, and you're either backing down or something bad's going to happen.
We're gonna. Have,
Well, Lee Mangione didn't get that memo.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, but ultimately, the writing part was so hard too because the whole identity thing, right? Like I have never. It just happened for maybe first time the other day. Some lady was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm a writer," because the book was coming out and I was just talking about it. Where that was never what I would say. I would say I'm either a coach or this business guy or the speaker or or even author, but not writer. Yet I really love that. Like, are you ready for this great story? So my mom, who was from Toms River, right here, like grew up right here. And her dad was the lead editor of the Ocean County Sun. So I don't know if there's still that or whatever else. And then my other grandfather was a teacher and writer and all this stuff. And it's just, I want to say it's coursing in my veins, and it's coming out. But again, that full circle to, hey, what could I see myself doing? I have this vision of because it's just so fun to create. And you see where this thing goes because you don't even know where it's going next. Like I remember sometimes telling my wife, this thing's like coming out really good. I don't even know where it's going to go next, right? Cool. And it's been, a lot of fun, but it is a nerve-wracking time because it literally comes out in a couple of days, and then that will decide everything of, I guess, how it goes or where it goes, and that's the code I got to crack next, right? Is how do you... I don't know. How do you reach them? How do you get people to do it? And then here's the other part of fear or bullying, right? Maybe I still have a little PSTD from it is then the reviews start coming in. And now imagine, oh, this sucks. Or this guy, whatever, you got to be
but is it just like
that.
social media quotes? You can't pay attention
Yeah.
to?
Absolutely. But everybody still pays attention.
of course.
Tell me you don't.
Hosts and ghosts.
Yeah. Well, a great story about that, and this is a cool shout out to Henzo. I got the opportunity to work with the Prince of Abu Dhabi.
Sheikh Tamim.
Yeah, but so long ago, right? Like this is 2000 or something. And I just remember we spent a lot of time and just had some really great conversations. And that was when I was coming out with my first book, which was the Training for Warriors book, which ended up becoming a passport for me around the world. But I remember when it was coming, he said, "Hey man, I'm going to give you some advice." He said, there's one piece of anatomy that's the most important piece of anatomy you're going to have now that you've got this thing coming out. And I didn't know what he was saying. I'm like, what is it? And he's like, thick skin. And he said, man, you better have a super thick skin because no matter how good it is or no matter what happens, there's going to be people that don't like it or they're going to give you crap about it or they're going to say whatever else. And that always stuck with me because it is so true. Because I think about it, a guy that's so high profile like that, you got to have a thick skin,
Yeah.
And that I think is what, no matter what though, you're never impervious.
You're vulnerable. You're putting yourself out there.
Yeah. And that's where it's funny. But in funny stuff, so Jim, he read it, but then I was worried, will women like it? Well, Jim's wife read it. Then my, Todd Durkin, or he's from Brick.
Yeah.
So his wife just read it. She loves it. Like, so I'm getting it to people, and they're all loving it. They're like, "Oh my God, this thing's crazy!" And then I'm like, "Man." At first, I was like, "Man, I thought I really went hard. Maybe I should have gone crazier or something." I'm not even freaking anybody out.
Gotta give it to Renee. She'll read that in a day.
She was saying
a big reader.
No, well, hey, I think it's going to be interesting. But here's what I didn't realize. I wrote it in my mind, I wrote it for guys. Like we talked about, this is going to be a guy book. We're bringing this hero back. Like this is a man's man book. Whereas, but women like that guy too.
Yeah,
They do.
right.
Well,
Like
women
they love that
lacking
guy.
some real men in this world nowadays. All right.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, hopefully your wife doesn't call you Lee by the end of this thing. But it's definitely, I don't know. It's a fun process. But do you see how everything was so interwoven? Like if I'm not in New York and we don't do the stock exchange that day, this thing isn't
wouldn't have
there.
happened.
cool, man.
You know, it wouldn't have happened. And then if all those things, like, and if
if
if that dude never beats me up in his backyard, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Right. And hey, I will say this because I haven't shouted him out enough too, or mentioned him enough. And Ricardo, right?
Ricardo's-
So Ricardo Almeida, he was, I would say, see, Henzo started the movement of what we were doing, but Ricardo was the guy that, for lack of a better term, was the guy that got exposed to all of it. That really, he was the guy that then it was built for everybody else. Then we knew what we were doing. So he survived the hardest, worst stuff. But he and I went on such adventures because the sport was so young then, right? Like, and I know you guys have probably talked a lot on the show about that, but just, you know, I can remember when guys were fighting for a few $100 and they had nothing and there was no support and maybe there was an injury. You know, I remember he broke his hand.
Your first fight was what, in a basement in New York City or something, Frankie?
a boxing gym, yeah. It was a boxing gym in New York City for $160.
Yeah, this is the stuff I don't think people will understand. You know, same thing. We talk about the past. I think it was so great, you know, because it was still so raw. It was so great. You know, I almost enjoyed it more because there was real big style, you know, changes or different things. But Ricardo, without him, so much would not have happened either. You know, and so many great experiences.
Can you back up for a minute? You said something earlier about Ricardo's first school. You guys both talked about this, kind of had a chuckle. Was like on top
No,
of
it was Henzo's, yeah.
Oh, Henzo.
It might be his second school, I think, right? Was it
It was like
On
the
top
second
of the
place.
methadone clinic?
Yeah,
That's
and
fucking-
a great line. And Gene Dunn, when I always talk to Gene, you know, and I just saw you had Jamal too, and Jamal and all of us, and this Gene always would tell the story because we would be riding the elevator up, right? But like, remember, this is new stuff and it's creepy and scary. But there'd be these, you know, drug addicts, I guess, that would be riding it along too, and we're in the elevator, and this guy goes, "I know what you guys are doing in there." And I remember Gene's like, "Yeah, what?" He goes, "You're hugging. You're all hugging. Yeah, you're hugging." And it was like, that's what we were, right? Like it was just this. Can you imagine like these doors open and they look in there and they see a bunch of dudes crotch
he's
to
not
crotch,
wrong. He's not wrong.
wrapped up.
Very sweaty.
But it was this magic time. You know, hey, again, like we always talked about, like John Danaher was a blue belt.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and you know, there's nothing.
He was New Zealand John back
Yeah,
then.
just, you know, the Columbia PhD bouncer guy.
Yeah,
You know, and
yep.
it's just, that's what I'm saying is it was so to have watched so many people.
Was he always wearing a rash guard back then too?
Probably.
Yeah, yeah, but and he had long hair then too, but it was but he was super strong. Like I remember training with him.
He's a bodybuilder
Like, yeah,
at
like
first.
guys, because I will say this, he can attest to it. Like my thing was strength. You know, people say like, don't use strength. Yeah, right. Like that was like what I had. And I always say there's only a couple people that I ever felt like, wow, this dude's really strong. And like he was definitely. But he was so technical, I guess, too, that compounds the strength.
What Henzo used to say? Strength is for the weak.
Yeah, I don't know. It got me out of a lot of stuff. But again, all being equal, if you can use that, because I'll tell you, you know. But at that place, to have watched, you know, when we talk about those things, where these guys were, and then where they all went. It's incredible. Like Matt Sarah, all these, like these are, there were so many legends that are legends now that were in that room. So maybe the message too for anybody listening, hey, you spend 25 years on something, you're going to be really good at that something, right? And we've all done that.
Put yourself around the right people.
Oh.
You know?
But that was the thing is, again, it went back to that passion idea, right? Like, so mine was the fitness. Like, hey, I'm a black belt in judo, brown belt in jiu-jitsu, but I wasn't trying to compete or I don't know, be in the UFC. Like that wasn't, but I would train with you guys, right? Like I was always training and man, because I had to understand it for what I was trying to be great at, right? But then you see how, hey, and then Danaher became a great teacher. He didn't, compete per se or try to do it. But then, hey, Gene became incredible in business, but also teaching. And then Ricardo really got in there too. Like, so everybody was getting all these different areas of expertise, but it all came from that place. It was just so cool, right? Like to be around all those high level people, right?
Matt Serra's a very interesting guy. I mean, he's got the gift of gab too. He can, I think the longest podcast we ever did was with Matt Serra. I think it was like 3.5 hours. Down there. Probably could have done 5 hours.
Again, same thing. So charismatic, and to see him and Henzo in one room together, is off the charts. But remember, he was, if you almost want to say that, Matt was the original protege. Out of there, right? And what he had achieved at a time when people thought it could only be somebody from Brazil, right? Like, so.
Well, beating GSP was like nobody ever.
But I'm saying, but that was way later. Yeah, that was way later.
Like the first American to go down to Brazil
and go to Abu Dhabi. Go to Abu Dhabi, not even as a black belt and tearing people up. But here was the secret again, man. Those dudes, like, they were drilling. They were drilling. They just were training and drilling, like living it. Right. Like, and that's the thing, right? You found this new thing and you became incredibly passionate about it and you spent the time, like what you talked about with your son. Like the secret, you want to be great, put whatever it is you want to be great at and put the word time after it. So, hey, you want to be great at wrestling? Mat time. You want to be super strong? Gym time. You want to be really fast? Track time. You want to be really, like whatever it is, you want to be great at ice hockey? Ice time. And they have a word for it, right?
Be good in the bed, Raj? Bedtime.
Wait, that doesn't work. Yeah. I don't get to practice that one. but it's almost, do you see what I mean? That's the ingredient that few are willing to. Hey, I'll say this one. You want to be a good writer? It's called butt in chair, they call it. That's what the writers call it. You gotta put your butt in a chair and you gotta hunker down.
So what's your approach to writing?
I would say,
was it different when you sat down and wrote that for you? Did you get writer's block because you've never written a book like that?
No writer's block. I think once I'm rolling, what I do, I'm almost, because I dive into something, I was less disciplined, more burst. Like I can almost see the end in sight even when I start, and I'm just going to be ceaseless. So it was months and months and months. It's just, that's all I was thinking about.
You pretty much had it all in your head before you wrote it down.
Well, but it starts unraveling and then characters start taking shape. Things happen. It's really cool. Like it's an experience because you bring it to life, but you can see points at least, and every writer is different. Like Stephen King, who I consider the gold standard.
Yeah, he's great.
The gold standard. They say, or at least this is what I've seen in interviews and stuff. He sits down at the same thing and he writes every day. And it's like a certain number of words, whether it's good words or bad words. And man, that dude's got 90 books. Some of them are 1,000 pages long. Yeah. But do you see how that's how it's going to add up?
Not far from him. He
Maine?
Lives in Bangor, Maine. Yeah. Grew up in a little town called Cherryfield, but everybody goes to Bangor for everything.
Yeah.
It's kind of like where you go to Sam's Club or Walmart or whatever. So yeah, his house is like right in the middle of town.
Man,
it's kind of an old creepy house too.
But do you see how the process, right? Yep. And the story that's so legendary too is that he was always writing and he was always sending out stuff and doing things.
His story from childhood? I mean, I think he was like one of like 10 kids or something like that, and he grew up on a house with a dirt floor, like absolutely poor. But what he had was books, you know what I mean? He liked books, he liked read, and that's what inspired him to become a writer.
But the cool part of the story is then he became a teacher. He's a high school teacher, and he writes Carrie, right? And they keep sending it out, and it's rejections. See, that's the part what they say with authors too. You got to be ready for rejections. Like everybody's going to just reject you, and he just kept taking them until he threw the manuscript out. He's like, it's just not going to go. I'm just going to be a teacher. And his wife, who's also a writer, she kept sending it out behind his back, and somebody bought it. And even then, it didn't go big yet. It was when the movie got made, and then it launched him.
That's like his number one.
Yeah, but what I mean is like that other line is you can't give up, right? Like, But the original thing, like you said, what's the process? Every day. We're all writing. This is what I always say. Like, look, we're all texting. If we probably added up what you guys just texted today, you're writing. Why not do that same time into something really productive? Sure. Yeah. So you're already doing it. You don't realize it. What I tried to do with this is really, try to master the craft. Like, so what I want is when you read it, I want you to see like, wow, that's how Martin writes a sentence, or, there's art there. Like I'm trying to take it to that it keeps you moving, or you feel it, or you're going. Like that's the thing. When you read Stephen King, he just keeps you going. Like he's just so great, but he's been doing it so long.
Well, it's crazy.
It just
too.
goes.
Like, how about he could when he's like alcoholic for a long time?
Well, a lot of things.
Yeah.
a lot of different stuff. But a lot of that comes out in his writing. And if you read a lot of his books, his books are always about writers. Like if you ever saw Misery, like look at what that was his ideas.
His books are all about people from Maine too.
Yeah. Well, and he creates a fake place in Maine called
Pet Cemetery.
Yeah. No, but and all of those.
He had a few that were a little bit off the mark for me. Remember Land of the Langoliers or something like that?
Yeah, I didn't read that one.
That was not that.
Yeah.
Roger didn't read any of them. He watched. He's talking about watching movies.
Yeah, he saw that. He saw that. He saw the summary on Netflix.
Frankie's not wrong. He's not wrong.
I've read many Stephen King books. They're the bad.
Next, Roger's gonna say it when he was hanging out with Stephen King. I'm like, dude, do you know Stephen King? Because we got to get him this book. Yeah, which would be super cool. But yeah, it's like but again, back.
You got hit by a car when I was living up there and almost died.
Yeah, but that became. He's got some stuff that. Here's what's weird is it gives you the stuff, right? Remember how we said you can only write what you know, like. That's what's scary. Yeah. What maybe is going on in there. Yeah. But definitely, it's hard, right? Like writing, but it becomes a challenge. Here's how I would use it too. As my body is no longer letting me do what it used to do, that's hard, right? Like that's been a identity shift. Like, cause I was the guy that could lift the most or jump the highest or run the fastest. And hey, Father Time's undefeated, right? Like, it's slowly, it takes some away. Like, hey, I'm always still training. I'm not going to not train, but I know that's fleeting if that's the only way I measure myself, right? So it was almost, the writing in a weird way became like the new challenge thing, a way to express myself. And use energy and feel like I did, achieve something too. And that's that challenge for everybody listening too. What is your thing? What are those ways that you're doing that? Don't let it just be that you're just scrolling, or something. Like what's that next thing you're trying to do, right? Because
you're right though. We probably all do write novels throughout the week. We're just texting it. We should everybody's not going to be a published author, but I feel like all of us have a story to tell our kids. If you're a parent, you should write something to leave to your kids. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
About some message that you want to,
Well, here's what I would say is
you gotta spell first.
Yeah.
Solid.
But actually, he doesn't even have to now. That's what's so scary. Yeah, you could just say it. But hey, I'm here.
I'm writing a book tonight then.
Yeah, he's like, I'll be done by tomorrow. But I'm here.
Dear kids.
I'm back in New Jersey. My parents, like I said, are from here. Why I'm here, my mom passed away a few months back, and we're doing the memorial service this weekend here in Toms River. And on the way up, I drove my dad up, and I was just asking all these questions, and I started to realize all the things I don't know. Like, what was your great-grandfather's name, or where were they from, or where did you live, or what did you do, this, that, and all of a sudden he doesn't know. And then
once it's gone, it's gone forever.
And so that did hit me where, man, and you can't stop time, right? Like, and you can't buy it back. Everybody should preserve some of those ideas. And you think it's going to go, it may not. Like, it's pretty easy. Hey, this guy's cemented some good things, I think. I think they'll talk about it. But, a couple Edgar generations away. But not everybody has that thing. But who were you? What did you think? Like I was saying, like my grandfather was also named Martin Rooney. And I know he was a boxer, which is really cool. and he owned a bar in the city, which is like, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm asking my dad about this. And man, I imagine if I could have had something written that he just wrote, like, here's what I did and here's where I went. And because I know some things, but like, man, what value would that have, right? Like, so it doesn't have to be a thriller or a fiction thing. Hey, how valuable would that be that you could read something from your great-great-grandfather 100 years later?
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
Maybe not for everybody, but it'd be crucial to your own family.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying, though. Just for them, if you did it, right, it'd be something worthwhile.
Absolutely.
But definitely, I think the experience of creating, or like it used to be with the physical stuff, now it's with this. But I don't know, you've seen some of my stuff. I also got into chainsaw carving.
Get out of here.
Yeah, so a buddy of mine,
we got a guy in Maine, I forget, he's like famous. Dana White bought a huge thing from him. It was on one of his stories.
But,
it's like a famous, he I think the thing he's most well known for is he took a pencil, like a number 2 regular yellow pencil, and did the entire alphabet with a chainsaw and a pencil.
Whoa.
I think he's in Ripley's Believe It or
Yeah.
Not or Guinness Book World or something for doing that. But yeah, so how the hell you get into that? There's like 5 people in the world that do that.
No, there's a lot more than you think. That's the thing. Yeah, there's a lot of niches of different things. They have world championships in this thing. I've seen this one where they got world championships and it's speed. So it's like best carving in like 10 minutes. And you got to see these people from all over the
Well, you
world.
start with a giant chainsaw, you just keep working
it's
your way
a
down.
chainsaw,
You know?
the type of wood. So you had to learn all about the wood, different types of wood. But I ended up befriending this guy named Doug Sharp. He'll like me shouting him out here because he's a big fan. And he lives in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Okay. And I just started going up there. And one day we were hanging out. And we were having some drinks. And there was this unreal carving like of this eagle. Like it was awesome. And I'm like, man, that thing's awesome. You know, and we're just sitting there. He goes, yeah, I did that. And I'm like, what? You know, like, and he'd never said anything. I'm like, what do you, you didn't do that? What are you talking about? He's like, yeah, I did that. He goes, watch, we'll go in the backyard right now. We'll do something. I was like, let's go. You know, and we went in the backyard and we made like a bear, you know, and I was hooked. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I had Jim come up and some of the guys, and we made another, it was the guy, Todd too. And we made another one. And then I just started going up there all the time, and he was mentoring me and just teaching me every bit of all of it. And if you've seen some of the stuff, like I've done some pretty serious things, but it was almost, you see how it's always, that's a physical test, got some risk, but it was like not as tough as, you know, being in a wrestling room.
Yeah, right.
But ultimately,
Chainsaw Sawyer, that's his name.
that's that guy.
Yep.
But if you check out the stuff and if you get into it and just look, people do incredible things. So I would say I got okay at it, but what I'm getting at is it was always that I got to create something, or I it's so cool to work on something, you see it and then it's done.
Sure, right, yeah.
Versus again, that you're not doing something. So maybe I think that's the secret with me is I'm going to be working on something.
Yeah, stay busy.
Right? Yeah, have to, which actually is another great thing too. I think we're sold a bill of goods that like, I think we're all programmed like, oh, you're supposed to work, and then someday when you're 60, that's when life will get great, and you don't work anymore. And everybody that I've seen that have followed that, they fall apart when they got nothing going on.
I agree.
After that,
Life is so backwards. You don't get to enjoy your youth. You work your whole youth. By the time you get to retire, you're so old, you're decrepit, and for most people, because they don't take care of themselves, what do you get to enjoy?
Yeah.
It's backward. Life is totally backwards, you know?
well, and it's just then you get there and you don't have the physical capacity to do the things you were supposed to do. It wasn't there in the first place. So it's kind of, hey, make sure you're doing some of it along the way, but it's always staying busy, right? Like, so I like this. There was a real cool thing that's been sticking with me. I shout out to Brian McLaughlin, who was in Jim's corner. It was during, I think it was the Bobby Green fight. And, you know, there was a point it was going, you know, maybe, you know, not gonna get finished. And I just remember he yelled out and he goes, "You're not done yet. You're not done yet." You know, and it clicked and he wasn't, and he kept going and he went. And I think that's just this great mantra for no matter what we've done. Like, you know, hey, even like, look what you've done. It's like, you know, hey, we can always talk about it. And we didn't spend a lot of time on this show, which we could have just talked about all the stuff that he's done, but like, you're not done yet, you know, and you're not done yet with your kids. And then it'll be after that with something else and something else. And as long as that what's next mentality is there, you're going to always be rolling, you know, and digging into the next thing.
Looking forward to it.
Complacency is a killer, right? Once you become complacent and what's your saying? When you rest, you rust.
Yeah.
When you rest, you rust. You know.
Yeah.
Well, the one I got from Couture was the door hinge that gets open and closed every day never gets rusty, right? Like, so just always, it's like, so just always moving a little bit or doing, you know, something new or challenging yourself. But I think that's the trick we've been sold is like, there's this destination. You made it and now you're here and this is what you were supposed to have. You're supposed to have this house and this car and this thing, and now you just lay
But
it
it's
around.
not the destination. Like you said, it's the journey.
Yeah.
Right?
And it doesn't end.
And it's a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah. So it's almost so that what's next thing, right? Like what is, you're not done yet, you know, and that's where I think that gave me the confidence to do something like this, because I think we get pigeonholed. We think, well, that can't be me or I can't do that. And I'll tell you, I experienced a lot of that. I think they call it like imposter syndrome. Like, you want to talk about imposter syndrome, let the rockhead fitness guy try to be a action thriller writer. Or like, you know, it's like so many times it's in your own head that you're going to say, I can't do it, or it can't be me.
I could fight for a heavyweight belt then, you think?
If we
Well,
had
that
if we had a
heavyweight belt-
time machine.
If that heavyweight belt isn't pie eating, I think you can get it.
I'm your guy.
Don't let me not motivate him. Imagine it's like, here's the motivation, guys. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. No, heavyweight belt in what, right? Which is hey, it's an interesting time in that we didn't even talk about all the things that are happening in the sport currently. But I know that is a very hot topic.
Oh yeah.
If it's ever going to happen.
Who was that? Luke Rockhold was doing this. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And Bisbing's like, shut the fuck up. with that
Believe
shit.
it, achieve it, conceive it.
What are you writing a book? Get the fuck out of here. And he beat him. And Bisbing beat him.
He did.
Well, I'll tell you, and Bisbing, because I cornered Dan against him.
Yeah,
great Bisbing story I have, because I think it always earned a lot of respect. He earned a lot of my respect, Bisbing in particular, for a couple reasons. But when he was on the show, he was the bad guy.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan, and
Yeah.
I for his first few fights, I was like, "Fuck this British guy, let him get." Dude, I love the guy now. I love the guy. Lose an eye and to keep fighting at the fucking level you're on, and he's a likable guy now.
Well, watch this though. Even deeper, it's the stuff people don't see. People don't see the weight cut. They don't, which is an area I tried to really pioneer. That was a way I really got on the map. I was helping a lot of people early in the sport figure out how to do it safer, more effective. And we're trying to, but back then it was still, you had like a sauna. We're trying to do it. Well, it ends up, I forget where it must be Vegas, but it's Jim's brother, Dan Miller's fighting Bisping. And they're both still coming up at this point. And we have a sauna, and the sauna is not working. Like, this is how bad it was back then. Like the sauna isn't working. We're trying to close it. It's not getting hot. I'm getting ice, and I'm holding it on the thing that I think is the thermometer, so maybe it thinks it's cold, and it will give us more heat. And guess who the only 3 people are in the sauna? I'm one of them.
Bisbing and Dan.
Bisbing and Dan. And I'm holding this thing. Neither one of them is getting the sweat that they need, so we're not losing the weight. We're all in there. And I just remember standing there. It's so uncomfortable, and I said, I just had to break the ice. I'm like, hey, Mike, I'm a really big fan. My name's Martin Rooney. And, and he goes, yeah, I know who you are. I got your books and everything. We read it, but this is the start, right? But then they have that war. And Dan, that fight Dan took on that, remember, was really close to, the stuff that had happened with his daughter. Right. It's unreal that he even fought. And after the fight, Dan is just so upset and everything else. And it was just us in the locker room, and Bisbing came in, and they just sat down and they talked, and like Bisbing gave him this big hug and all this stuff. And I just remember being like, this dude's the coolest, like that is one of the greatest things I've seen, because that guy could have just been, the locker room, like everybody would be celebrating, everybody be going crazy. He could be the whatever, let me go to the press conference. And like, to make it a point to come in there and do that, it was this side that like I couldn't have imagined, because of the character that he was portraying. Right. But like immediately huge fan after that. Yeah. But now here, fast forward to what I just read. I don't know if you saw it a day or two ago. He wrote about how physically banged up he is. Yeah. Like, I saw it was either double knee replacement,
his neck has been a mess,
missing the eye, like you talked about. And
I always ask Frankie, like, how do they? I mean, when you're overseas, what's the one guy, the one Russian dude missing the eye?
Shara.
Yeah,
but he's overseas, so maybe you can get away with it. Come in, this Bisbing fought.
Yeah, I still can't believe. I still can't believe
how the fuck did he pass those commissions?
He lied.
Just knowing the charts.
He lied. He had a doctor working with him.
Really?
The doctor was giving him like taps and stuff like that. He had a doctor that would work with him.
It is unreal, but that's this toss up, right? Yep. Like, but he did say at the end, I would never trade. I knew what I was getting. I knew what I was getting into. I knew what I was doing. It's just that is the part. And hey, I know that stuff you've had and gone through, and these are the things that, like, hey, there's a price on this.
I said I'll be in physical therapy, working on my shoulder, my neck, my back, whatever. And there's a 50-year-old dentist in there that's hurting because his back hurts. There's a 60-year-old guy, plumber in there hurting because something's going to get you.
Yeah.
It's going to get you. So no matter what it is, you find that. I love this saying, find what you love and let it kill you.
Yeah.
That is true.
But it is the incredible challenge when I read that is I think that's the part people don't understand is like what you guys did for the pleasure of the crowd.
Yeah.
That just the physical toll when you add it all up. You know, that's why Jim is he's an anomaly, man, right now. Because sometimes I'm starting to say, holy cow, like, because he's, you know, hey, knock on whatever, like not having physical problems and man, still going. And
people
you know,
that
most
don't
fights ever.
know him, and you know, because he's a little reserved, he's a little quiet, and you know, in his UFC stuff. But like you follow him on Instagram, he's a fucking riot, bro. His sense of humor.
Jim is one of the funniest guys.
is hysterical.
We have so much because remember I've cornered him for so many fights, and you spend a week in a hotel room, and we stay in the same room. You add all this up, it's like months and months and months of your life. So much great humor, super smart guy, and yeah, it is. I always said he and Frankie just to have, you know, you weren't the bad guys or the you know, say horrible things or do something else, which I feel like they didn't get rewarded the way they should have got rewarded on performance, whatever else. Just like, you know, when people start saying things like, oh, you know, Jim shouldn't have a Hall of Fame career. I'm like, well, how do you measure one? Because any other sport would, you know, because I remember one of them, I think it was either DC or somebody said, oh, well, why? Because he's just been in it a long time. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like how it works.
Yeah.
Like Bo Jackson.
Competitive the whole time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is Bo Jackson's not getting in the Hall of Fame. He had a couple good years, but like you can't.
Not enough to
it's
have
not
it.
enough.
Right.
Or you could name tons of people like that. But then the guy that did it for 20 years.
I think he should be, but
Yeah.
I also think he should have like a YouTube channel when he's working on his 150-year-old farmhouse because he's fucking hysterical.
Yeah,
some
but
of the shit
he
does.
kind of does. It's his
Well, yeah, listen, I
Instagram.
did the. I'm giving a little. Well, I don't think it's. Who gives a shit? I did the voiceover for this Nork
Yeah.
coming up. The Nork card that's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
up next weekend, and give a little homage to my man Jim Miller.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you know.
Well, he'll be excited about that. Where, well, hey, and you know, we trained a lot together too, which was really cool because there was just this time when you guys were in there. But it's what I like to say, which is sometimes mind-boggling that I don't think people get it because he just had his 46th at the UFC.
I know.
Yeah.
It's
Right,
crazy.
and I say, guys,
It's crazy.
most people don't fight 3 times a year
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, right.
And then, well, to get 46, no, and nobody fights 15
At the
years
highest
straight,
level.
15 years
At the
straight.
highest level.
Well, to get 45, you'd have to fight 3 times a year for 15 straight years.
Right.
And he's on 46.
insane.
And it's just, and then, you know, you see it's a murderer's row when you name a lot of the people. And
Is
and
he
either,
is he trying to get to 50? He
Yeah.
should. Yeah, that should be the goal.
that's well, here's what's crazy, and he knows it. I remember when the goal was 30. And then I remember being like, man, now we're here. Well, maybe the goal's, no, and then the goal became 300.
Oh, yeah,
then
yeah,
the goal
yeah.
was 40.
because he fought on 100,
200 and 300.
Yeah.
And then the goal was 40. And then like that blew past that. And then now it's, and I, like if you would have told me 50 when we were going for 30, I would have said you're out of your mind. Like it's just, it doesn't
He's
even.
a fucking legend, that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really crazy, you know, and it's been so great. But I think, and I've told him this too, in this selfish thing, just like with you too, like I never want to see it end, you know, and it's, but again, whose dream is it or you know, whose body
Well, you
is it?
can't you can't tell them either. When you're at that level of an athlete, I think correct me if you're wrong, but everybody could have said, dude, time to hang. You needed to
Yeah,
do it
you
when
got
you
to
were ready.
decide when you want them done.
Yeah. No, and I think he has at least now a destination because there never was one, or at least an end game. He's talked about 50 and keeps saying it, and that would be the one to, hey, let's have a big show and 50. You know, that is, I guess, you leave the
I
gloves
hope
in
they
there.
give him like another legend to fight for 50. You know what I mean? Not like
We
an
we
up-and-comer
always
guy.
play like some fun games. I'm wondering who. No, but some of the legend ones would be great.
Tony Ferguson or something. You know?
Well, I don't- yeah, he's gone.
I know, but somebody like that.
I would say, what do we talk? I forget the. There's been a couple of interesting ones, but it's like, hey, you can never count him out, man.
No.
Like, because stuff, like, you know, it's stuff happens, right? And he doesn't. People don't take him out. You know what I mean? Like, it's always still a tough fight. Like, hey, that last one was really tough, but it was
in it,
yeah,
moments,
yeah.
moments, yeah. It's just tough. You don't want to see him lose at all
No.
either, you know?
And that's part of the game, though. You know what I mean? Like,
Someone's
it's
gotta lose.
Yeah, and it's just that idea of 46 is it's astronomical in terms of if you look at other sport records, because now that's a record. There's not like that's
tough to
up there
match.
with some stuff, right? Like, because I think the next current right now is like they have 20 or so, or I forget who
I
it is.
think
It might
he's-
be.
correct me if I'm wrong, but he's creeped ahead of you at this point. But you, for a while, held the record for the most time.
No, I got
No, he still has it. Yeah,
You still do?
Yeah, he
Do you
does.
really? Oh, wow. Okay.
Jim is like fourth or fifth.
RDA has the most.
RDA has the most.
Yeah, but you're ahead of him. And then
What is yours, like 8 hours or something, right?
Just under 8.
yeah, Jim is at 7 hours and something.
That's insane.
But, and you guys are in a lot of things. Like Jim, though, he's got most wins, most fights, that and that's overall, not even division. But then it was most sub attempts.
Yeah.
Then he's like second all-time subs, second all-time finishes. He's like third fight of the night stuff. That's another part too. Like, I don't even know how anybody could argue. It's like, oh no, he shouldn't be. And it's like, this guy has more fight of the nights than those guys have fights.
Right.
Fights. Like, I think it's like 19 fight of the nights or something, 17 fight of the nights. Like that's a lot, right? I don't think Connor had 17 fights, right? No. Like, so again, it's not about popularity. That will be an interesting thing in the sport, that eventually as the sport continues to be defined, it has to be considered a real sport. Like when you look at baseball, it's like you better have hit 300 for 20 years with 3,000 hits or 1,000 RBIs or 300 wins or there's these markers.
There has to be like markers,
yeah.
Right? Otherwise, I think you should be in it.
And see, but the thing is, the sport is still so new. Remember, baseball is 150 years old. Right. Someday it will be, but it will. And again, that isn't even something that's the funniest part is that's how he is too. He doesn't bring that up. He doesn't, you've already done it. Like you did your thing. Yeah.
I think he gets there. I think he gets in.
Yeah. I was just
especially if he makes it to 50, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
did Jim ever fight for a championship?
No. So two times he was one away.
Diaz, right?
And
Diaz,
Ben.
Nate Diaz,
and Ben Henderson.
And Henderson, okay.
That's right. That's right.
So he would have, and what it is it's the cosmic way of it, where you are and when, right? That, and again, I think, that's nobody's choice either. It's like where you get, it's where
sometimes
you get put
at a draw, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was, I don't know, it's been, because I obviously have been there, this guy, the longest with one fighter or two. Yeah. That it's pretty incredible, but there's been so many. Here's the interesting part is the longevity aspect. Sure. So if we were to talk training about it, training has changed, right? Like, hey, we're all credit Frankie. Remember I said Ricardo was the guy that we built the base around and then we were figuring it out. What Frankie changed for me was a lot of my training was very metabolic. Like that's what made the style popular. It was almost pre-CrossFit where then CrossFit became this crazy style of workout. But what I realized with Frankie was he already had the cardio stuff and you're already doing so much of that. We need more strength stuff. Let's work the strength stuff. That's how we're going to, it became like strength and rehab and building versus we're just doing crazy circuits that don't make you stronger, but you're already worn out already. Right. And so I think that created this shift, but now this big shift has been, how do you extend the guy's career? Because that's when they were all, you could do anything to him and, you're not going to hurt him. But do you see how this has made me way better where we've had to deep dive into sleep. We're deep diving into HRV. We're deep diving way more into nutrition. We're deep diving, everything that in a weird way, if you want to be a 40 or 50-year-old guy, all the things you should really have, you should really have down pat. Whereas it's just this unique thing because I was never training 40-plus-year-old fighter, guys that were doing it, right? Everybody was 20.
Only guys that can do that are heavyweights, basically, right?
But even that, how many? Like,
not many.
So it's an anomaly, but this has been the really fun part to how do you try to delay father time as long as you can, right?
Well, I guess you can.
Well, you can knock them off a little bit.
Yeah. Well, that's what, and you can, right? Like biologically, you could see it with what you do. Oh, that's enough. So I have not even mentioned it yet, but it was a great segue to that. I'm also a chancellor of a university that is for exercise science. So it's a university called Lionel University. It's a newer position that I took. This has always been my background and my passion. And so this, what I'm hoping is now we're really also attacking the future of education and the way stuff will get taught, right? So that's also been the last year has been a deep dive into higher ed, which is actually way under fire right now. If you've seen, what the Trump administration is, how they're attacking some things where, hey, there's a shakeup right now, like how things are taught. What are we teaching? Why are we teaching it? Who are we teaching it to? Right. And so that's been a really fun experience, but it's forced me to deep dive into all of those things, right? But at a real level, right? Like I think that's what we always brought to the table with the training was never, for lack of a better term, anecdotal, like, I used to do that, so let's do that. Yeah. No, it was, what does the science say? What is the most accurate stuff or the best things that we could be doing, and we're going to do those. We're not going to, and we're going to measure it and we're going to manage it versus, I still see this day, it's just beating the hell out of people, or I don't know what, like just.
Frankie, you've always been known for your conditioning, like always. What, if you could think of one, I can think of one, fight where you actually had to test your gas tank the most?
My first fight in UFC, because I took it on
Tyson?
4 weeks notice, and I had a sinus infection for 2 weeks out of 4 weeks. I was out of shape. I remember
that one. Now, was there a knee bar in
yes.
that? Yeah, that was the knee
he
bar
held
one.
it forever.
Yeah,
the time
that was
ran
that
out.
one. I remember.
I was watching that fight. Like, he's going to break his fucking knee.
I won that fight, and I was walking back to it, and I thought I got a concussion because I threw on the way back. I had to throw up, and I threw up because I was so out of shape. Which never happens to me.
Speaking of that, I dropped my son off to train. I know you weren't here. You were away with Tino, but I dropped him off Saturday morning. I went back and picked him up to train at your school, and he comes out and he goes, "Dad, some guy puked everywhere." I go, did he like run to the bathroom? He goes, he just kept puking.
Yeah, someone told me. He said he cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Well, hey, some of that stuff, what I would say is the reason that happens is it's either you've done something you're totally unprepared for, or the ultimate level of fatigue. Because what it is, it's a defense mechanism. Your body's saying, dude, shut this down. Don't, because think about it. After you do that, can't do anything else.
Yeah.
But listen to that story, right? Because how Jim has a very similar one. Like, took the fights. His first two were on no notice because somebody dropped out, not always ready. But they, Frankie, Jim, they won them. And that gets you. Sure. Now imagine you did, like think of how many people probably had the same scenario and they don't win, and then that was your shot,
right?
And you don't get there. It's scary, right? Like imagine an alternate universe, you don't win that one.
Well, I'm sure it does a couple of things for you. It makes you think, I want to train hard to never be back there. But it also makes you know, if I get there and I'm that tired, I can still win. You know what I mean? So,
but there's the bigger lesson I have right there, and it's stuff we've been talking about all day. Can you say yes when the opportunity happens? Because I'll say this, you know how many people I guarantee got their shot and said, no, I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I won't do it, I can't do it, and then they never get the shot again.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Like, so that was a thing Jim prides himself on, is we always say yes. They were like, hey, you just had your honeymoon and you're 20 pounds overweight. Do you want to take this fight on 1 week notice? Yes.
Frankie, you think that holds true if you've established yourself? Like, obviously, if you're an up-and-coming fighter, you have to say yes to everything, even if you're maybe even mid-level. But you can take a guy like John Jones that's not greenlighting. I think it will happen, but he's not greenlighting.
He's not greenlighting this fight, not because he's saying no to UFC, because he wants more money. You know what I mean?
But he's still stonewalling. He's still not.
But it's like it's not. But
he
doesn't need any opportunity.
That's what I'm saying. So it does matter where your ranking is.
Oh, without a doubt.
Listen, the UFC likes you a lot more if you say yes. I promise you that.
For sure.
Well, everybody does, and they know what you did for that, for whatever that counts, because you see it now too. Then when you're out, like, hopefully you accumulated enough of that. But what I'm getting at is not even for just the fight game, for anything. Like, how many, every day there's some cool opportunity.
Sure.
Like, this would have been the thing. Imagine Frankie's like, hey, you want to do this podcast? And imagine I said, oh, no, it's not a good weekend, or no. And we didn't do it. And then maybe somebody today got inspired by something we have said.
Absolutely.
And that changed something for them. Now that doesn't happen. And this ripple doesn't extend out because of it, but by saying, yeah, I'll do that, or
butterfly effect, right?
Hey, you want to do the stock exchange thing? So when Jim told me that, dude, I got my flights changed, everything. He was like, do you want to do that? I was like, yes, I want to do that. I was, because how they bring you in a day later, so they brought him in early. That's why we got to do it, because we were the only ones there. I was like, and you live there, so we were like, let's do it. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. And I'm like, no one else, wanted to do. And it was so funny because we were doing this thing and we're doing the interviews and all this stuff. And I'm probably in my head like, why are we getting it, dude? I know they were probably like, who the hell are these guys? Well, not you two, but me. They're like, why is this guy doing all the talking and the because we had crazy jackets.
I saw the yellow jacket.
Yeah, we were Jim all
had
in.
The cowboy hat.
Yeah, we went all in. We're shooting all these funny videos in there. But But do you see how it would have been way easier for me to be like, no, that's a hassle. I gotta miss work and leave my family and I already booked the flight anyway. So
missed opportunity is one you'll never get again. Usually, you know?
Or your life is this series of all the really cool yeses.
Could have, or could have.
Yeah.
Could have. Yeah,
That you
I'll tell you,
said.
I got to give this guy a little fucking credit here.
A little.
Even though I hate to, because he calls me gay every time the show. Would have been terrifying for me, and he never second guessed it or whatever. He did stand up comedy, which is so fucking out of his league, out of his realm,
Out of his league.
expertise. And he did it, and he really didn't waver about it. He was like, oh, "Fuck it, I'm going to do it." And
I did 5 minutes stand up at a comedy club.
Yeah.
In front of 250 people.
And how did it go?
It went all right. It was an MMA show,
Yeah,
so they were very gracious to me.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I wrote it myself. I had a little help, but I definitely wrote it myself. It was cool.
Now, were you nervous?
I was totally nervous.
Yeah.
I would have been nervous.
But do you see how somebody would laugh? Like, so here's this guy that's going to fight in front of millions,
Right.
but then it's like,
Exactly.
oh, wow, 200 people that don't matter. They can beat them all up, but he's afraid, But
Well, like I always say, like in the UFC, it's like you're so nervous to go out there. You're less nervous. For me, I was some nervous. I went for comedy. I go out there now. I'm really nervous.
Well, having done, doing a lot of speaking, I'm, people always say, oh, are you used to that or whatever else? I'm nervous every time, man. But I think that's part of the.
It's part of the passion, isn't it?
Or addiction, meaning addiction of, we said pushing ourselves, doing stuff. Because think about it. Here's the thing, right? How will you ever replicate that feeling? And whether it was wrestling, then fighting and everything else, you want to find those things that put you in that scenario, but that are good things, right? Like I think some fighters, they find it the wrong way, right? Like they're still looking for, I always said it like they're looking for that rush.
Yeah.
Right? Like how can you ever match?
You got to find stuff that scares you.
Yeah.
But not that could kill you. I
No,
guess, you
yeah.
know what I mean?
Or hurt other people. And that's part of this game too, right? Like that, like what is it? So is it, is it doing a podcast or is it doing the show, some of the shows or some of that stuff? Like it's always nerve wracking a little bit but that's, what is, you're alive, man,
Yeah. You got to look at the benefits to things. We get to speak to so many people, including yourself. I think it helps you with your speaking ability and confidence builder. I think, doing this podcast, if nothing else, it helps mold your personality a little bit for sure. I think,
Well, and I was thinking of the idea using with Frankie too, where it's like you're looking for this new thing that either pushes you or challenges you. And you know how what I say with my kids when I'm coaching them is a lot of times, man, the kids are terrified, and it's like a race. They're in a race, but then you realize they're running in front of their family. Man, you got nowhere to hide. Like you don't win or you come in last, they're gonna know it. And a lot of times the kids are like, I'm so nervous, and they use that terminology. And what I got them to all say instead was, I'm so excited, right? Because see, excited is like a good nervous.
Right.
Nervous is bad. Nervous is like, I don't think I'm going to do well. I'm scared. Yeah. So that's what they always had to say is I'm so excited about this, right? Like, so even with your son, say he's about to wrestle, right? It's like, man, I'm excited.
Right.
Like, because now that's like positive nervous, and they are. And it definitely worked, right? But do you see how that's going to be always our challenge moving forward is, how do we get excited? Like, that's why I was like, go do the stock exchange. I'm going. Like, because like I was,
Absolutely.
I'm nervous but I'm nervous when we were in there. I didn't, we're going through those
Something
rooms
different,
and
never did, yeah.
I didn't know what was going to happen. And, remember, and then we're like, they're having us say stuff on video and different things. It was, you just got, and that's why that day I came back and then I was like, man, I'm on fire. I'm doing the next thing that makes me scared, And, and it becomes a series of cool stuff, right? That leads to those. So ultimately, yeah, you are the culmination of all the yeses you said.
I like that. I like that.
that is a good. That's a good one,
quote. Yep.
right?
Like the movie Yes Man. Right?
Yeah, remember?
Jim
Yeah,
Carrey?
yeah. He.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's
like
kind of a good movie.
yeah,
in
had
that
to say
aspect,
yes, right, to everything.
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah, what was it? It was no, that's the liar one. But
Liar,
but
yeah.
it was. But it's like he had to
Had
say
to say
yes
no matter what.
Yeah.
So like any opportunity he had to take.
Yeah, but imagine if you could, do that. Like,
Roger
he
was saying yes to a lot of
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. Like Roger would be. Roger would
I feel like I'm living in the Truman Show.
He beat me to it. I was gonna be like, Roger's gonna be the number one, I'm looking up there. At first, I was like, "Is that him up there?"
Yeah, back in the day, yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I was on a little bit of stuff.
Oh man. So now, what comes up? What do you got next going on?
For me, well, I opened a jiu-jitsu school.
No, I know that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm always saying
that's pretty much that. I'm, full steam ahead with that.
no, because I just saw you just launch that partnership with the military.
The We Defy.
Yeah.
They're just we offer veterans that want to come roll and kind of get over some PTSD and get into the community, because I think that's what a lot of veterans when they leave the military, they lose the camaraderie, I think, a lot. So
Yeah.
I feel like coming into a jiu-jitsu school, getting that camaraderie with your team, kind of suffering together, I think that can help them a whole lot.
An interesting thing, because I talked about the university stuff that we're doing, a predominant number of our students are military, because the military has some incredible benefits for education for their students. And man, did we experience that a lot, because I'm talking to a number of these students and you hear about the backgrounds and the things that they're searching for.
One of our first guests, Rory, combat wounded vet, missing a leg, came down here early, like first year we did the podcast.
Yeah.
And ended up during COVID, ended up taking his own life. So
Oh man.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Good, yeah. You know what? He used to talk to a lot of people during. That was like his way of helping other people. He was talking to them, and I think when COVID happened, there was no one to talk to.
Yeah.
It just shut us all inside, and I think he had no way to vent, or he had no no release for talking about what he experienced and what he went through, and it was very unfortunate.
Well, and some of the stuff that we talked about today too, and if anybody is listening, whether you're military or not military, that concept of purpose, right? Like, so I always described it as, for a lot of these guys, and I've spoken for a lot of organizations. Another one, my friend Harrison, who I'm sure you've met at Parisi's, he now runs a company called Soldiers to Sidelines, and this is for all guys that have come back and now out of the military to help them become coaches. And I remember just having this idea that, hey, just like I told you, like, you're not done yet. A lot of these guys, they were always on mission, right? But they were on mission, but they were told the mission, and they had this direction, and everything was controlled and everything else. And then when you're out, and
Thinking no more missions.
or what is the mission, or what's the mission now, or what do I got to do? And that is my best advice: is it's finding that purpose, for whether it's writing that book, whether it's working out, whether it's coaching people, whether it's or talking about it or making sure. But the worst thing I've always heard is to worry by yourself, which is what you just said. Like COVID, that had us all doing that.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if I'd be lying if I didn't say I had a lot of horrible ideas during that time too.
I think men are, more known for doing that, because men don't want to bother people.
Yeah.
They don't want to reach out. They feel like it's some attack on their personal pride or something to show weakness. Or
Well,
something.
yeah, we don't want to ask for help.
Exactly.
Right? But that was a very tough time, I would say, in particular for me, because I'm always out speaking, or I was always out coaching. You guys hopefully can see I'm a higher energy guy. I got to be around people. Like, I like being around people. And, man, I'm the worst guy to lock in in the basement. Yeah. And that's where I was. And my organization, because I have a company called Training for Warriors. That's that he knows about, that you watched build, where there were hundreds of gyms around the world, and they were being shut down, right? They were just being shut down. And it was like the law, like you just couldn't be open, or you're in trouble, or whatever else. And I remember it was just so difficult, because it was so much of what I had built, and it was being taken away, and it wasn't my fault. I could see if I screwed up, but this was like, and I couldn't help, right? Like that was probably, it's hard, and it's easy to, you sweep it under the rug, like, man, it seems like it's a long time ago, but I still can't even believe. Like, imagine if you had your gym then. Like,
we would have boarded up the windows and been training anyway.
Well, that's how it was kind of going, right? But I can remember these horror stories, like cops showing up, or who knows what.
The story you're probably talking about was at Tillis Gym. Ian Smith, he was on the show three times.
Yeah.
He just said, "Fuck it."
He got sued for like millions
No,
of
I
dollars.
remember
Didn't
that.
pay any of it. Didn't pay any of it because it was all illegal.
Still unreal that.
Glad it's in the past.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Exactly.
Well, Martin, let everybody know where they could follow you: Instagram, websites, anything. name
your
all your
Yeah, so-
books, all that stuff.
So if you enjoyed this today, we always got more stuff or other things, and you can reach out to me, and I always get back to everybody. I'm on Instagram as the Martin Rooney. Hopefully you check that out because I'm always putting stuff up there. Hey, you could see that company that I just talked about, trainingforwarriors.com. There's lots of information there, cool training stuff too. The new book is called Blood Feud, right? And that is on Amazon. That's where you get it. So it's like, I don't sell the book. It's on Amazon.com. That's the best place to get it. And maybe the last thing to talk about is my mom, right? Because this has this cancer theme. My mom, throughout the 80s, ran a company only for women with cancer. It's before there was ever the first pink ribbons or the races. Her best friend passed away of cancer, and my mom was a coach and a gym teacher. Oh wow! And she left that and just was like, there has to be something better than this. And she started this company for just women with cancer. She learned to be a lymphedema specialist, massage therapist, wig specialist. They had the clothing, all this stuff. And Medicare didn't even know what to do because they didn't even know how to cover it. But she was just doing this for women to get their dignity back. And what's interesting is she became a spokesperson for American Cancer Society, all these other things. So in a weird way, that affected me a lot too, because I watched how many people she helped. So one of the things that I said about this was anybody that orders the book on Amazon, all the books that get ordered before the official launch date, but it's getting close now depending on when somebody hears it, and I'll honor it after, I'm going to donate $1 of my own money for every book that is sold to the Hope Lodge, which is where Todd stayed, which only operates on sponsorship from donations and the American Cancer Society. Cool. So it's kind of like a way to maybe bring it all together, in her honor. So it's going to be in her name, but the place that helped him out, that really led to writing the book.
Wow, that's great.
Right. So hopefully if everybody checks it out, and if you do check it out, write a nice review. Then, if you listen to this show, then I want, it'll be, then we won't have to send Frankie to your house.
That's it. Yeah.
Or if you're a good looking guy, we'll send Roger. I had to get one in. No one is
It's not
safe.
true. That is not true. I won't be coming to your house.
Yeah, well, Martin, man, thank you for coming on. This was awesome. Your knowledge is, like I said, I remember a lot of stuff you said throughout the years, and I take that with me to the kids I coach now, and to just my approach in training. And I enjoyed all your books. I can't wait to jump into this one, and all the best, my man.
Thanks.
You got to sign our board too.
Yes.
Got to sign our board.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, out.
Champ of the Tramp out. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe.
What's up, guys? Make sure you follow us on your favorite podcast platforms. You can find the links in the description below. And if you've enjoyed this episode, hit that like button and share it with a friend. Your support keeps us growing.